Okay. Hello, everybody. It's the Elder Scrolls Online podcast, The New Companions. I'm Jebro, your host, and we have some epic guests with us today. I'm just going to show you their faces because that's also probably quite useful. You know, their faces are better than mine. So, you know, well, unless you want to go back, I mean, let's go back to the intro pic first of all. I mean, Kash, what was that about? What happened there?
I was loitering on somebody else's red carpet.
Amazing. That's fantastic. That's like, yeah, this is what it feels like exactly. And it just came off and your face just changed.
Right before I got tackled.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, that was okay. Oh, it wasn't during, that wasn't mid tackle then. It wasn't like mid tackle. It was like, oh, God, kind of thing. Okay. So, first of all, let's introduce our guests, Kyle, Dempster Studios. I'm going to call him Kyle because because that would be very random if I just said that every time. How are you doing today, sir? Are you well? Are you good?
I am doing very well, thank you. Yeah, people like to ask if Kyle is my real name, and I like to tell them that it's not. So you may call me Kyle, yes.
Oh, it is actually not your real name at all.
It very much is my real name, and I love that people ask.
Okay, right.
You're good. Call me Kyle.
That would be complete.
That's who I am.
My name is Kyle / my name is not Kyle. We also have Jibbs and Kash from the Loreseekers podcast. So if you don't know, if you've never, I mean, you guys have definitely, if you've been in the Elder Scrolls online community for a while, and the cat as well. Don't forget about the cat. What's the cat's name?
That's right. This is Lucy.
Lucy.
She's all over Dad this morning, so.
Lucy, the cat as well. Stream. Okay, people.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
No worries. Yeah, you guys are well and good and happy and joyful.
Very good. Full of whiskey. We're good, man.
Full of whiskey.
Ready to rock.
These boys this morning. It's this morning for me. For 11 a.m. It's the afternoon for them. It's okay. It's Sunday. Everyone's chilling. We're laid back. We're good. I hope the chat is well as well. It is the 31st of March. Just in case you are listening to this podcast on any other service, iTunes, Spotify, and everything else. Welcome as well to you guys listening there. This is live on Twitch on Sunday, and we do this every other week. We don't do it every single week because I feel like it's a little bit more impactful every 2 weeks for what I do specifically on the show. It's about 2 hours long. We're going to talk about the new player experience, and what a better time to talk about the new player experience than during a time where there's probably the most new players in the game, because we've got Elder Scrolls for free right now, right? And they can just play the base game and they can go for all the things, you know. So it's a good time for those people. So if you are in the channel and you have got no idea what we're talking about, there is the link right now. It's !free ESO. You can go and check it out. You get a link to the page and you can go and see how you can also play pretty much for free. And then you can just, you know, if you like what you see and you're here with us and we're describing our experiences for new players, maybe we'll sell it to you, maybe we won't, you know. There's also that.
Challenge accepted.
Goodbye. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we're going to go on with the first topic as well. My voice is a bit hoarse this morning, so you have to excuse me. But first of all, so you guys, let's, I guess, give a little bit of intro to ourselves as well in terms of players of Elder Scrolls. How long have you been playing the game for, roughly, Kyle?
Less than a year. I started last June, slightly after Somerset hit. So less than a year. This is my first time through the cycle of any ESO releases, so it's been a very fun time.
Okay, that's good to know. So you've got that, you've still kind of got that new player experience in your head, and also kind of still going for it, right? I guess as well, to a degree.
Yeah. It's hooked me. I mean, I've been playing it nonstop since, so we've barely done any other gaming besides it. But it's just the community here that keeps me around. These guys are amazing.
God damn
everyone.
And Jibbs and Kash, how long has it been for you guys? Did you start about the same time? Were you friends when you started playing, or did you kind of get together, or did you hate each other, or?
Kash, you go ahead, man.
Still hate each other.
Hate that guy.
No, it's it's actually been quite a journey for me with MMOs. I think I've played pretty much all the main titles under the sun, but with Elder Scrolls, it obviously started like a lot of other people, it started with the single player games, and then once Elder Scrolls Online was announced, we just flipped out. So I've played since beta. I've played on and off, with several games in between, and a pretty decent stint back into World of Warcraft. Nice. But all told, I'd say I've probably played. I probably played a good 2 years, with the last, well over a year. This is all I've played is Elder Scrolls Online, which I've said before in some of our other shows is very profound for me because I switch games like crazy. Mm-hmm. And I have just not had that. I've not wanted to at all. This game has just really sunk its teeth into me.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, I came back right before Scale Caller, that DLC. What was the name? Dragon Bones. Right before Dragon Bones dropped last year. So that'd been like March. Yeah, February. It's February because we started our show, I think, March. So yeah, February last year.
Oh right, okay, that's awesome as well. So that's funny, isn't it? I mean, we've kind of come into this game almost around the same time. Maybe a few years before. Maybe we dipped in and out and whatnot. And there's probably big reasons for that. In all honesty, obviously the start of Elder Scrolls and ESO and the fun times that happened with the launch of the game, because I was well into, I was obviously good, a lot of people would have started ESO at the beginning and continued probably to now if it was the same experience.
Right.
Unfortunately, it wasn't that, and actually, that's one thing I kind of want to mention very quickly to anyone in chat or anyone listening anywhere is that if you do want to jump into the game now in any way, shape, or form, it's not the same at all as it was at launch. I mean, I remember that launch very well. I remember the beta even better, and it was just an absolute feeling of no, this is not fantastic. And you could really get the voice acting, the questing, all of that solid stuff was there, but it's just like, as an MMO, to play it, to hit an enemy NPC or anything, it just wasn't there at the time, right? I mean, can you guys agree with me on that? Probably, maybe.
Yeah, I think it took it some time. It was I remember Kash and I both, we played it, when it first dropped, and we both just felt like this is good, but it's not where it needs to be yet.
Yeah.
And it's taken, this time, I'd say probably up to really, things really started to catch my attention back when Morrowind was announced, or, I remember reading it, I think it was at PCGamer.com. And so, I think it really took a solid 2 to 3 years to really start getting it to where it needed to be. And really, I think it's a trend anyway, especially in the industry. We see games launching a lot in early access. It takes them a lot of time to get to where they need to be. And so you're seeing that a little bit with ESO, and it's never, in my opinion, it's never been in a better place. I love where it's at.
Yeah. Kash?
Right now I think this game is absolutely hitting its stride. And I think Jibbs and I, we kind of hit coming back like right at the perfect time, because, and no, it wasn't timed, it was just kind of organically happened that I started playing, and then we started interfacing again with each other. We had a little period where life just happened, and we were kind of set apart from gaming as it is. When I came back, I started texting like, dude, you got to get back in this game with me. It's incredible. And it very quickly became a conversation of, hey, are we going to create content for this? I was like, yeah.
2 weeks later we had a show.
Yeah.
Wow, really? That's awesome. That's really good.
Yeah, I mean, that's really how it happened. Yeah. And Jibbs and I have been friends for a long time.
I'm sorry. I mean, is that a good thing?
It's a testament to this game. Yeah. Because if you don't have a platform on which to do something like that, you're not going to do that. I mean, people say you stand on the shoulders of giants. Well, we're standing on the shoulders of ESO, and we have just, not only been able to come back together as very close friends, but also being able to experience this game at its best time. And if you just take a look around, I mean, look at the content that's being created for Elder Scrolls Online. Look at, I don't even want to call it hype, because it's not hype. I mean, this is just more people experiencing how good the game is, and it getting onto more social platforms, Twitch being probably the number one, but and then it's everywhere right now. So it's not just the community; it's the community talking about an amazing game. So if there was ever a time for a new player to jump into this game, it is now.
Agreed.
Awesome.
Yep. Very much agreed.
Well, what else can I say about that? Have I got your name completely wrong? Have I got anyone's name completely wrong?
What did you spell? Did you mess up my name?
What have I said your name wrong?
Jigs. It's Jigs. It's actually Jibbs with two B's.
Why did I say Jigs?
Oh, cool. It's a new name.
Did I do Jigs? Really?
Oh
my
Jigs
good
now.
lord. I'm the worst.
All right.
I am so sorry. Why did I do Jigs?
I leveled up today.
Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Seriously,
I'm the
if
worst.
there's any meme creators out there,
I am
now
the
is the time.
absolute worst person. I am the worst. And I said Jigs just now as well. This is Jibbs, and I am a massive, massive, massive idiot. I'm very sorry about that.
It's okay. I've been called worse, so you're doing just fine.
God,
Now you just need to change that name though in Twitch chat. I see that Loreseeker Jibbs.
I love
Jigs.
that. You're in the chat as well, and I'm just blind. Wow, I am so sorry, everyone. I am a professional. Like I was watching Family Guy, and I just did jigga. I don't know.
All good, man.
I don't know.
You know what? Late night Family Guy changes things for the next
He
day.
had too much respect for my haircut to mess my name up.
Well, also, you can
just go bald, and it's fine.
Oh, it's funny.
It's gonna be okay. Okay, I really am sorry about that. It's annoying. Jesus Christ. Okay. Anyway, it's fine. Anyway, guys, it's all good. So it's Kyle as well. Did you want to add anything to that? That's a really awesome story about you guys, by the way. The whole podcast thing, the 2 weeks, and yeah, that is really actually quite interesting. Didn't know about that about you guys. Kyle, do you want to add anything to that beginning kind of launch?
Yeah,
statement?
I mean, I guess I would say that there is, that initial stigma and bad press, and I can't believe how many people on a nightly basis we get coming back saying, I played in beta and I hated it. Is this game any better? And my first response, because I never played it, but I always like to use that approach, is I'm like, yes, what you played was garbage. No, I never played it, but I mean, that seems to be the unanimous agreement.
Yeah.
And I go, but the great thing is, it's not now. This is the best MMO out on the market, just to try and like juxtaposition shock them, be like, yes, you're right. You played something that was bad, but now you're playing something that's amazing. Get in here. And I mean, I was a hater, not even having played it before, but it's crazy how that group think kind of works on the internet, because here I was probably March last year when you guys were getting the thing started up on your end, and I was seeing posts on Reddit like, I just hope ESO dies so we can get
Wow.
This is pre-TES 6 news, right? I hope it dies so we can get the next Elder Scrolls game. And I wasn't writing anything back. I don't like to contribute to those, but I'm thinking, yeah, I hope it dies too. Screw this game. Sounds like trash.
Someone clip that.
Little do I know that I get into it like a month or so later, and I'm like, this is the least trashy game I've ever seen. This is like the best thing on the market. Seriously, as a guy that was playing World of Warcraft in March last year and feeling really crappy about it, I'm like, this is not the game I used to know. But ESO, comes out of nowhere. Someone convinces me to get into it, and I log in, and the community immediately embraced me over on Twitch, and that was kind of, like you guys said, the game is amazing, and the community's equally as amazing, and I don't think you can take those two things out of context, especially when it's an MMO, because MMOs die without community. I mean, you can have a great game, but if no one plays it. And so I always say we're a little bit lucky that we don't have the floodgates opened into this game, because I think that does a little bit of its own quality control. And I think that's why we've got these really ultra dedicated people, and everyone tends to love each other. I mean, you guys, Loreseekers podcast crew, like embraced our show and stuff. And that's not something you see among content creators in different channels. You know
what? That is a very, very, very valid point, actually. Out of any content I've created anywhere, like, it's normally, there is a lot of, I mean, I'm involved very heavily in Guild Wars 2. There are a lot of content creators there that do cooperate. Again, it's been around a little bit similar time, a little bit longer, but there is definitely things over there which, I won't go into that. It's a little bit strained in places, it is a very different community. I think there's definitely a lot of comparisons I can make between Guild Wars 2 and ESO. ESO's launch was a lot more rough, for sure. and they're both different games. I mean, they both offer something like ESO offers something completely different I was missing, and that was the old school kind of quest system and the in-depth character creation, which is where we're actually going to start talking about the new player experience and see if that's something we actually enjoyed ourselves, and maybe viewers, you guys in the chat, and anyone that can comment on this can mention as well. So in terms of creating a character when you get into Elder Scrolls, right? What do you reckon? I mean, just a quick gathering of thoughts. Like, how do you feel about it? Did you enjoy it when you first did it, or do you still enjoy creating your character now? Is there anything that could be added, or just because of that initial thing? Because we've all done it. We've all logged into an MMO, right, and we spend what I spend like 2 or 3 hours sometimes on stream in the flipping character creation, and everyone's like, "Oh shit, Jebro's starting a new MMO." I'll log in.
I instantly love you because of that.
Good stuff. Yeah. It's important. This is my person.
I have no problem talking about rolling a new character, because if anybody in our community or anybody who listens to our podcast knows, I have a severe issue with murdering perfectly good characters just so I can make space for new characters. So I love the new player experience, and I have some pretty poignant things. I've rolled so many new characters to this point that it was hard for me to think about back to when I was a brand new player and God, what really could have helped me.
Yeah. Okay, good.
I'm sure we're going to talk about some of this stuff, but the first thing right off the bat, and I know you guys will agree with me, is as a non ESO Plus member, and back in the days of beta, bigger bag space,
oh my gosh,
was absolutely needed, because this game became like inventory scrolls online.
Yeah,
really what it was. It was so difficult to go out into the world where you could loot. Now, there was less things to loot back then, but there was still a lot of stuff to loot, and your crafting bag was not different from your regular inventory bag. Okay. It was all one and the same.
Yeah.
So you would fill that bag up in an hour of gameplay, and you're immediately having to go back to town.
That's right.
To empty that bag out. It got very, very tedious.
I can tell you're going to have a lot to talk about. This is great. This is awesome. But in terms of the actual character creation, you creating your character,
yes.
Did you enjoy? And we're going to come on to that, one of those exact topics, and that's very good that you brought that up. But in terms of I'm kind of going through almost chronological order of the new player experience in a way, just because that's the way my head works, I guess. But you get into the game, you choose your race, you choose your class, you choose your look, and everything else. Is there anything in there you guys think could be improved upon that is just very good already, and it doesn't need to be changed? It's fine.
I certainly do. Yeah.
Okay. Go for it.
Take the floor again, but yeah. This is an incredibly complicated game. It can be very, very complicated until you learn a lot of the basics. So just coming from somebody who would first time experience, download the game, start to play it, rolling your first character, I certainly think there could be a little bit more refinement in an explanation to the type of characters that you can play, the type of builds that you can do. And I know it's completely open-ended. You can really build anything that you want in this game. Now, whether or not that certain build, say you go half of your points into magicka, half of your points into stamina, maybe a few into health, is that going to be viable at the end game? Probably not. Hybrid characters in this game tend to struggle. So maybe a little bit more of an explanation as to, if you're going to pick this race, these are the specific things that you can look for. Now, we've already refined that a little bit more with the most recent racial passive changes. So it is a little bit better. And there actually is now a guide that's in the game that does help you to build your characters. So if that's turned on, then that is certainly better. Now, the brand new player experience, I think it's kind of a catch-22 because the game is so incredibly complicated. There's so many avenues to the game, and there's a couple learning curves in there.
Yeah.
That maybe just a little bit more explanation about how that process is going to take place for the new player, and kind of leading them in the direction like, do you like to play a ranged character with ranged weapons?
Yeah.
Then these are your choices.
Yeah.
Do you like to play an up close in your face character that takes all the damage for the group and make sure people survive and all that stuff? Then you might want to go the tank route. You know what I mean? So if there's something a little more poignant in that direction, and it is getting better, it's an evolution process. But I think as a brand new player, getting to figure out what class you want to play is probably one of the biggest things. Now, I just real quick on the character creation part itself, I love it. I still love it because there are so many choices of how you can make your character look and feel, and a lot of variance in the way that you can create your name, which is, you want to talk about spending time on a name or on creating a character. I can get through making a character pretty quick because I kind of have an idea what I want to look like. I want him to be bald. I want him, kind of buff and blah, blah, blah. Of course, the baldness. But when I get to the name, stuck every single freaking time. Where I land, I'll sit there for an hour researching stuff on Google, going to the thesaurus. I like this name, Altmer names, Bosmer names. It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Yeah, no, good valid points completely. Before I give my opinion in a bit, I want to ask you guys as well. Jibbs, do you want to let us know how you feel about that?
To be honest with you, it's going to sound cheesy, but I kind of second what, maybe lazy, but I kind of second what Kash said.
No. You can do that.
Like, I think they have the skill advisor in there, so, it's good when you're first starting out. Based off the engine they have, I think the character creator is pretty well done. I mean, it's pretty awesome. I mean, I find myself getting stuck in the same area. I get stuck on the name, it's like, okay, do I want this to be, Loreseeker Jibbs or whatever, or, just trying to find a name that fits. But like, for me, I guess making the player aware of what they can do with their character, where they can take them, whether it's stamina or magicka, kind of introducing that to them, or even just giving like, hey, you can take this 2 different routes, letting them know that may help. Because when you boot up this game, it's open-ended, right? And I think that's the best part about content creation for this game. It's open-ended. It's Elder Scrolls, been around for forever, but as far as ESO is concerned, I mean, you've got hours and hours of time that you can invest, whether it's the stories or the NPCs, the people in the game, etc. So it's just like kind of guiding them with their character, like as far as whether it's stamina or magicka. I think that may help a little bit more, just kind of giving them an idea of what you can do. Because I think a lot of times you get people who join the game, and sometimes you get those people who are like, all right, I want to get to, they've been playing WoW or whatever, like SWTOR, Kash and I both go back in those days. I know, Kyle, you were playing WoW, and so it's just like some people you'll get, and they're about getting to max levels, as soon as possible, completely disregarding everything else. And so
breaks my heart.
The developer loses their wings when they just want to get to 50. Ignore that.
Ignore the content because the dev loses their wings.
True.
Yeah. So, overall, I would just say something that maybe lets them know, like, hey, this game's wide open, but you can totally take this character, whether it's magicka or stamina. It's really up to you, like really embracing and embodying this is your Elder Scrolls.
Yeah. Completely. Kyle, go for it.
I have to agree with that, and I know I don't mean to skip ahead here, Jebro, at all, but I do see that as being like one of the biggest issues, and I don't know if there's a great way that can be prevented at the start, the idea of people wanting to race to endgame, and I think that really comes from like a World of Warcraft mentality, where the golden age of WoW is always the last 10 levels or so, and so we get those people, and they're like, I gotta get to the end game, and I'm like, slow down, enjoy the journey. This is an Elder Scrolls game. Take that weird side quest that takes you wherever. And I don't know if that can be placed somewhere early on, but I feel like it could be. And I feel like maybe also it makes me think back to the Oblivion days. And Kash, you were saying this, the idea I think it was you saying it a second ago about maybe giving them kind of like archetypes in the game to kind of guide their decision making a little bit of like, if you like a tanky sort of thing, you're going to want to do this. You know, I don't think they want to pigeonhole people. I think they want to throw everyone out there in the world to experience it. But at the same time, we also know people don't work like that. At least not in 2019, they don't. We were talking about this before the show, that people really want a lot of guidance and things. And that's why they come into channels and message our shows and stuff like that and say, what's a good guide for this? And anytime I hear a new player wants to use a guide, I die a little on the inside, because there's nothing wrong with guides, but my personal opinion is that's very end gamey. So when you're in this character creation mode, and especially when you're brand new to this game for the first time, I think that's your time to be, I almost want to say dumb, but yeah, be the person that knows nothing and experience it all, because you don't get that wonder back ever. No. I mean, that wonder only happens for a short amount of time in any game, and then once you learn it, you've learned it, and you just no time machine for that. So I don't. That's why I always cringe when people say I want to use a guide and get to end game. I'm like, no, please enjoy.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And I don't know, again, I mean, I don't know if that's something as simple as tooltips on the screen, like in loading screens that are like, remember to stop and smell the roses.
They need that voice line. They need that voice line. They just need a little NPC to run over to you. They're called Kyle, and you'll say that every so often. You'll be like, you know what? Don't forget to smell the roses anytime there's anything nearby. That's it, exactly. Yeah, just in the background. You know,
just whispers into the air.
Some ambient ambience alert come across.
Yeah. Honestly, I think probably one of the biggest things that a new player needs, and I know it's probably not attainable unless you have a buddy, but one of the biggest things a new player would need in this game is a friend who has played the game that can kind of explain these things to them. And I'm going to be flat out honest with you. I've never experienced another MMO ever where there is a lot of that. I witness, now there are some trolls, obviously. There's a lot of trolls.
It's an MMO,
but
standard.
Right. There's a lot less trolls in this game than there are in games out there when it asks a question in zone chat.
That's very true.
You may have a couple of like little snipes of, you know, people, and it's usually good spirited.
It's just poking fun,
But for the most part, I think people are really diving in to help people. Yeah. And giving them that personal experience where, you know, hey man, I'm going to send you a private message, and they'll send them a private message and they'll work out their issue and answer their question for them. And I've seen that more here than any other game that I've ever played. And I think it's pretty amazing.
It is. Really is.
I mean, I definitely, and one of the things that I was really, and I think all of us have just picked up on that, you know, is the specifics of, you know, knowing what you want to play, and because like you're talking about WoW and other games, and it's so intrinsically built into people about, you know, getting to end game, as you said. It's definitely a thing in gaming generally in 2019 as well, specifically because gamers now, and I feel like this might just be a personal opinion as well, we want it's like the internet, it's like social media, we want those things really, really fast, and we want to get it now, and we want instant gratification. So I think it's even worse now actually than it used to be. And that's the whole other conversation that maybe I'll do a random podcast about, but that's just my own gripe, my own drama. But in terms of, you know, when I play, and I think it's something Kyle and Kash just said very briefly there as well, you know, when you start an MMO and you play a mage, right, you know, it's mana, it's intelligence, it's these stats specifically, and you know that's going to be the way you go. So when you come into ESO, it's like, okay, I'm going to be a Templar. That's Magicka, right? You know, that's Magicka. It can't be anything else. But halfway through leveling experience, I'm being told you can play a stamina one. You can play a stamina warden. You can play a Magicka warden. But then you can play DPS. And then you can be a healer. And also, you could actually be a stamina healer. You know, and whether or not these things are good or not, it doesn't matter. It's just knowing the options. And I think it's important to that, and you know, Kash said about weapons as well being ranged, and it's like, okay, but then I can be arranged, you know, doing so many different things, you know, with a bow, but I can jump into melee combat, I can do this or the other. So there's so many different kinds of builds and different things you can play. It's just like some guidance is very, very nice at the beginning, and to even go further on that. In terms of looking at passives and everything else, maybe suggestions that, you know, if you want to be a healer, for example, an Argonian healer, an Argonian Templar, or an Argonian blah, 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 has these effects and the benefits of it. Like, you know, healer classes, like races and everything else, not to pigeonhole people, and that could be too far. I'm not too sure if it is too far, but you could have the option. It's just a thing you could say, you know, if you want to be, you want to max your stats out, these are the classes that might be good, races that might be good for a healer, for DPS, for magicka, for stamina.
Right.
But then I don't know if it's going too far, because it's like, you know, the whole thing about an MMO is, as Kyle said, very well put, the exploration and discovery of these things, and that was part of my experience. So I don't know if that is a good thing to do.
Right. Maybe the way they have it is perfectly fine, because one of the things that ZOS really wants to get out there with their game, and I think they've done a really good job of doing that, is that you can play any race, any class, any way you want to play it. If you want to be a bow wielding healer, you can do so. Swap to your other bards or resto staff, and you're good to go. You'll probably be effective. So really, if they are to, I mean, this is me just playing devil's advocate here, because I'm an end-game player. So, but if you really look at it from the perspective of a player who just wants to get in and experience this game and the lore and the story, the incredible amount of story that's in this game, if you're just that player and you want to do this whole game single player and maybe group every once in a while for the stuff, you can totally get through this game with a hybrid non-meta build. You can really be whatever you want, really pick a direction and head in that direction and find tons of content.
I mean, you can right until, and the thing is, the solo challenge is not even over. I mean, I completed, and in chat I'm going to boast about this for a second. I just completed Veteran Maelstrom Arena for the first time as a solo player on the DPS build, and I play healer. Like, I'm a healer in every single game I play. Straight up healer, man. Damage was not my thing, but I wanted the challenge, and so even up until that point as well, I mean, you're obviously gonna have to refine your build and whatnot, and you learn mechanics. You can play really difficult content and challenging content as a single player as well, and I think that is actually something that is very unique about Elder Scrolls Online. Not that I think, you know, again, an MMO should just directly sell the single player experience, because it's definitely more about community, but I think that option being there entices a different kind of player into the game, so they can then develop and change and explore their own gaming experience within a community and see where they fit, right? I mean, I think that's pretty rad, actually. Rad. Wow, I'm really getting that saying in my head. But yeah, no, Kash, good stuff. Yeah, that makes complete sense. It's true. It's like, I think when I started healing, I think I had a resto staff, and it wasn't a bow. I think I had like a mace and an axe or something. It was just really random. I was like, I don't really see this working otherwise. I don't know.
And that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. It's pretty cool. Okay. Does anyone else want to add to that? I feel like this is going to be one of the... Every single podcast we've had, it's just like we talk about something for so long, and I'm like, shit, that was a really good conversation, and it feels like I should just put 5 things in like a document, because it just happens.
I mean, I could talk about that kind of stuff forever, literally, and I don't want to like steal the thunder of this show, but that's my main focus on it, is how people interact with the game, and that's why I mean, that's what we focus all my content creation around, is getting people onboarded for the game. I definitely respect anyone that wants to play this game solo, but I also think it's very important to have a community, even if you're not, even if you are sort of an antisocial person, have anxiety issues, anything like that. I think there's very good to have that kind of safety net that someone just mentioned a second ago, of like just knowing there's other people out there in the world, because we are all coming to an MMO for a reason. I think whether people realize it or not, and these games are designed in a different way, right? Like, we're actually kind of lucky that this game can survive as a single player game for the most part. Like, that's pretty beefy. A lot of other MMOs can't say the same. Our cities feel vibrant and full of stuff. Take a look at WoW for an example. They're very big buildings that are very empty because they're, you know, geared towards a whole different player base. They just think people are going to be in there in droves. Again, we can live in this like world where you can solo through it and it doesn't feel empty. But still, I think I think it's the community that keeps people coming back to it, whether they fully take part in it or whether they're a passive observer to it. I think that's kind of magical. So I think this is getting ahead, so I don't want to do it too much, but I'm liking some changes that are coming down the pipe for guilds and such. Yes. So I think it's very important for us.
Kyle, I got to make a mention about the way that you built your whole community, and just say that, you know, Jibbs and I, when we saw you come onto the scene with the focus that you had on the new player, we were like, this dude's got it. It's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, that's good.
And there's a lot of other folks out there catering to the new player, and I think collectively, like Ranger's doing the same thing. He's doing it via Twitter. It's like, dude, that's amazing that you can do that, you know, basically just via Twitter and through your community. And when you just put those olive branches out there to people that you don't know, and you take the time to say in chat, hey, let me help you, or to a perfect stranger, not only are you potentially bringing in a new member to your community, which is kind of secondary,
right?
But as a primary focus, what you're doing is you're taking that player by the hand, who could be that alone person, who could be that person that has incredible issues in their life that you have no idea about, and this game is their escape.
Right.
And what you're doing with truly focusing on the new player. I mean, every one of your podcasts is something. You're explaining something about this game to people from a ground zero level.
Right.
And when you can do that, people will come to you in droves. And then what you're doing is you are building a community of people who now have learned the game that can also pass on that knowledge. And it's an incredible thing for any community to have people focusing on that. And now people are going to do that on top of you because they take you as an inspiration, and they take what your community is doing as an inspiration, and then it spreads like wildfire. And all of a sudden we have this community of people who all they want to do is help the new people.
Right.
And it just fosters love. And that, I don't know. I don't want to get too stupid on this, but that's what I mean.
Oh, he's getting on. Gosh,
it doesn't take much, trust me.
It doesn't take much.
Does he cry? Or does it depend how many whiskeys he's
had? That was very kind of you to say. Jebro doesn't mind us stealing the show for a second and saying that. No.
You're talking about very relevant things. This is great. Keep going.
There is something, and I'm be curious if you guys do this with your guild too, because I listen to your show and I hear you talk about it, and I know your community is just as loving because I've interacted with you guys quite a bit. And do you guys follow up with people that ever leave your guild just out of curiosity? I have this habit, and that has changed. So this is kind of a tip for anyone out there that might be a guild leader someday or anything like that. And I'm glad to hear that you guys do the same thing, because people leave guilds for a variety of reasons. And you guys just mentioned a second ago that like this is an escape from people's lives, or like their actual, what might be true. They might have something very bad going on IRL, and this is their way of, enjoying something very different. And that's why we focus on positivity, and not everyone can be happy all the time. I believe in that, but I also believe that we can always put the best foot forward every time without fail. And so, if I see someone leave the guild, I'll follow up with them. And I had one person recently go like, you care about me more than my, a lot of my friends in the real world. And I was like, well, we just want to make sure that you're not experiencing anything bad in this community. We want to make sure that you're taken care of, because it's literally the least we can do is check in on a fellow player. Like that is at minimum the least we can all do.
Kyle,
I mean, we all have busy lives, but we are people, right?
Exactly. Yes, you have got a really, really, really important point there. I'm not going to interrupt you because I'm going to continue it in 2 seconds. But I don't know if you three guys do this. I've mentioned this to my stream. They know. In the UK, I'm actually a trained mental health therapist. And I am here about to go back to university to be a counselor and a therapist. And what you offered that player is actually something they're probably missing, like you just said, in real life. So then they've instantly connected to you in a way, and your community in a way that they've been missing. So in other words, you're actually filling something up in their lives which maybe they've never had. Maybe they've been seeking so desperately. So that is actually a very, very, very important thing you're doing. Like I cannot express to you more as an actual professional in the UK, not here yet, that is actually a very, very awesome thing. And if you can achieve that within your gaming experience, and even with people generally in real life, fucking A, and that's what I'm gonna say. So I just wanted to say good job, man. Seriously, that is very commendable. It's good. All of you guys for doing that kind of thing. That's very important.
I want to hear what you guys have to say too, because I don't want to hog the spotlight on that. But just to say, I think that everyone in chat can do that too. Like anyone listening to this, if you see a person that you've been doing dungeons with or questing with or whatever, you see them distance themselves in the community or leave a guild that you're a part of, it never hurts to PM them or send them a mail and ask, or a Discord message, just be like, hey, how's it going? And I always approach it like that, like, hey, saw you left the guild. I hope everything's good. Can I help with anything? And we just had someone today leave for that reason, and they just joined back into the guild because they're like, you know what? I thought I wasn't contributing. I said, if you're a part of the guild and if you're a person that's just enjoying this community, we want you, regardless if you talk or quest or whatever with us. If you're enjoying your time, we want you. Like you matter. And so have you guys had what Kash, you said a second ago, you do follow up. Did you guys have anything that stood out or any reasons people leave like that?
A lot of the time that people leave, it's because they were looking for a specific focus. So like we try and dabble in a little bit of everything at Loreseekers. We do a lot of just regular game content, but a lot of times people, and sometimes I've probably had maybe 3 or 4 of these where, we have that storyline at the end of our podcast. Jibbs and I write a lot. So we like to kind of bring the game to life. And at the end of some of our podcasts, we have an actual storyline that is all ESO or Elder Scrolls centric. Well, some people take that as, our guild is RP, like full RP. And then they'll come into the guild and be like, oh, there's really not any RP. We do like very light RP stuff within our guild when we do events. So we'll get people that leave and I'll be like, oh my God, they left. What did I
do? So
I'll
stream
type
this?
them real quick. And be like,
do you stream this?
I just want to make sure, like you're saying, Kyle, I want to make sure everything's okay. Is there anything that we can help you with? What did you find that was lacking in our guild? Right. And most of the time it's, I thought you guys were an RP guild and I'm really looking for an RP experience. So right there, it's like, okay, I can't compete with some of the RP guilds out there because they're incredible RP guilds.
Yeah.
So I'll just, hey, check this one out or check that one out. They're very active guilds.
That's so good.
Your fancy. And it seems to help. So I haven't quite gotten the person that said they left because we're a bunch of douches.
Yeah.
Right.
I just, we haven't gotten that one yet.
That would suck.
Aside from Jibbs.
Yeah, everyone's not a douche.
Oh, that guy's a douche. Oh my God.
No, but for the most part, I think it really, it's a good thing to have that kind of feedback from somebody who may leave. Some people are just leaving the game, period. They just don't have time in their lives to do it.
Right.
But if there is that one person out there that you could make a difference with, it's just so absolutely worth it. And Kyle, I'm sure you get mail. Jibbs and I get quite a bit from people who say that, I came back to the game because of listening to you guys.
Oh yeah.
I came to the game because I have this going on in my life and it's helping me get through that, or it's a distraction for me.
Yeah,
we can help with that, then that's awesome. And I also want to say, unfortunately, it's on the flip side, it does take true guild leadership. I mean, guild seriously, but it takes it takes a lot of activity from guild leadership to maintain the guild, because you will find that toxic person that sneaks in every once in a while.
Yep.
And they don't last very long in our community. Well, I'm sure it's the same way with yours, but we are extremely serious about keeping our community full of positivity and ending everything on a positive note. And it seems to be working. And it's almost like from more guilds like ours and yours and some of these other that are building and growing, it is bleeding out.
Yes.
People are starting to see that the overall experience in Elder Scrolls Online is overwhelmingly positive, except for PvP. It's overwhelmingly positive.
PvP. The reason PvP is not even that bad. I will tell you a million stories. But in ESO, or in any game, it's always going to be the more aggressive kind of toxic mode. That's just the way it is because it's competitive, right? But ESO's is actually very light compared. But I think there's a few reasons for that that we've talked about on various podcasts. I love the guild conversation. I think it could definitely be its own podcast. But I am going to push it along a little bit just because but it's still very important because and we will talk about it. And I might even just get you guys on again because of your experience with guilds with one extra person as well. Which could be, even the next one if you guys are up for it, because I think, we could have our own conversation about guilds. Stardancer, did see you in chat, made a very, very important point, something we're going to talk about in a bit as well, is the guild finder. So that's going to help you even more. And we will talk a little bit about guilds. We're still talking about almost before we even get into the game. And as well, so there's something I wanted to bring up about ESO Plus actually that I thought was an idea, and I always chuck in a few ideas to see how people think about it because I'm not sure. It's just something that pops up in my head, and something that could actually even benefit even the earning power potentially of Elder Scrolls, because we all love the game, we all want it to do well, but obviously money and all that kind of stuff is something else. It's ESO, we know obviously it's got good backing, it's fine, but also something that can benefit players is and does benefit players, something that Kash said very, very much earlier on about the bag kind of inventory wars that people can have. Is that bag extension with with ESO Plus and all the crafting materials, because it's crafting materials, isn't it, really? I mean, that's what your bag gets for. But ESO Plus offers that, and I actually don't think that players are massively aware of that when they start playing the game, especially if they're brand new. Especially, I mean, we all get the conversation, don't we? People come into our chat or the podcast or whatever, or they ask us to say, is ESO Plus worth it? And we all know it is. We all know it is.
No question.
But they don't. They actually don't, because they don't know what it is. So, and they might have actually been playing for 10 levels and they're still not really that sure unless they've really opened the store. And I can't remember if you're introduced to it in any way. And I know that might be on purpose because it maybe, shoving a store in someone's face right when they start the game is kind of sucky. And I can see you guys all I think the Loreseekers guys are like this. Kyle's looking into the distance. And it's like, what if when you started the game, they said to you, 5 days of ESO Plus. Here you go. How would that feel? But would it then give a negative introduction into how the game is without it? Because the game is now one Tamriel and everything else that came in, and being able to play the game without sub. It could be a different experience, Is that good? Would it be worth introducing them to an ESO Plus feature, for a couple of days to say, you've played the game with this. Now, we're going to give you a free sub for a few days just to see how you feel. Absolutely no obligation. You don't have to put any credit card details in whatsoever. It's completely free. Yes or no. Bang. Then you've got ESO Plus, and the player's like, Jesus Christ, I need this. I really need this in my life. And then, do you know what I mean? And I don't know how you guys feel about that. If it's something that is useful for people to know a little bit earlier in the game, or if it defeats the whole idea of ESO and exploration and finding out if you need to have something like that in your experience. Start with maybe, let's go with Jibbs on this.
Yeah, you know what? At the end of the day, it's free marketing, right? Yep. For themselves. It's like they're having the opportunity to have a potential investment into a new subscriber who could be a long-term subscriber, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever seen Nacho Libre, but it's kind of like give them a little taste of the glory. You know what I mean? So it's just give them a taste. So for me, it's like, man, you're gonna have all these. You're gonna have all these percentage boosts, you know, to gold, to XP, crafting inspiration, trait research rates, double furnishing collectible space. You know, make that evident. Like, hey, this is what you get, and we're gonna give you 7 days of this. Yeah. Go have fun, enjoy yourself. Because really, kind of going back to Kyle's point on last topic, you know, this game they're not coming in droves, and I would add it's really growing organically, you know. Yeah. And I think that's really one of the best ways that you can grow, because when you're growing organically, you're going to get people that aren't just coming in for the hype. They're coming in because they've had their friends talk to them. Their friends may have been quote unquote working on them, you know, getting them into this game, courting them in, and so you know you're going to get this slower build, but these people are going to be very, very dedicated to your game. And so whenever you bring in like a week of ESO Plus and just right off the bat, like, hey, this is what you have access to. You have access to all these DLC. Yeah. You know, go have fun. Exactly. Go do a Black Sacrament, kill somebody, steal a little bit, you know, whatever you do. Mm-hmm. Go. What's with those eyes, Cash?
And they do it already.
You always have to go dark every time. We're like having this light,
best way to do it.
Beautiful rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah, man.
Conversation, and you got to go Black Sacrament.
I like it though. You need the yin and the yang, man. That's what it's about.
Right.
you need that in a good podcast. Right. I like it. Good man. Yeah. That's good. That's okay.
Yeah, but no, at the end of the day, I think, you know, it's a marketing tool, right? Giving them, even if they choose to take baby steps into this. So let's just say they don't do 7 days. Let's say they do 5 days. Maybe not even 5 days. Let's bring it down to 3 days. Whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, you are investing into a potential player. And if you are willing to take a little bit of a cut for, you know, a little bit of money to come in to potentially bring in a player who's going to stay with you long term, do it. Absolutely do it. All day.
Jibbs is for it. Then?
That's one thing that we've talked about on our show a few times, because we get that question, and it brings up a few good points about the game at the very beginning level. Number one, you branch out into Elder Scrolls Online, and you can pick any direction you go and and that's the way they designed it, and they freaking hit a home run. It's absolutely, yes, they nailed that. The other thing that hits you very hard is, number one, you can run the game pretty darn efficiently on a potato of a laptop or a PC, for one. And two, you can absolutely have the ability to pick the class you want and go do it. If that's what you want to play, that's what you get to play. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, when you're playing this game and you see how awesome the community can be, for one, it starts the clock in your head. Like, how long do I think I'm going to be playing this game? So when Jibbs and I explained whether or not you should go ESO, if you think you are going to be playing this game any certain amount of time, if you're going to play a few times a week, if you're going to try and play seriously, other than just kind of running around on your own and doing your thing, if you're going to play this game anywhere from kind of middle of the road to, you know, very seriously, ESO Plus is incredibly worth it. And why is it worth it? Well, because you are getting, number one, you get all of the DLC as soon as you go ESO Plus. So you're going to get all the content. You're not going to be gated at all. You get Murkmire, Wolf Hunter, Dragonbones, Clockwork Horns, Morrowind, which is one of the best ones. It's so friggin' awesome.
It's my favorite. It's where I started.
Games.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so amazing. When you walk off the docks in Sadanin, oh my God, just go do it. When you hear the Silt Strider in the background, if you don't get chills having played Morrowind, the single player, just uninstall. Because they nailed that. Sorry, I'm definitive.
And there's the dark side.
You get excellent with ESO Plus. And then on top of that, you get free crowns. You get the endless crafting bag, which helps. There's so many benefits.
See, I actually think that, everyone keeps talking about, everyone loves the crafting bag, and I think that's absolutely amazing. Well, I think the crowns is one of the best things as well. Like, you know, if you're gonna buy crowns, you buy an ESO sub, because one, you get more crowns. But you know, you get 150 more crowns. Two, you know, you're already getting all this stuff, so you might as well, because you're just paying for all that extra stuff anyway. Even if you haven't, not many people own all the DLCs, not many, surely. And then, you know, you can spend those crowns anyway on the things you wanted, and you can buy the DLCs, even so that later you maybe, if you don't want ESO Plus.
Exactly. And you know, I'm not sure about this, but can you gift DLC to somebody?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't believe so.
Maybe not.
Could be wrong, but I don't believe so.
Yeah, I don't think you can. No.
Maybe it's because it's difficult.
That would be awesome. And I've also noticed
Meat says you can.
People. So
you can.
I don't know. Maybe something.
Says you can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can. There you go. I think the more things that you can gift, because some people might not have the means to be able to go out and buy, you know, Wolf Hunter or something, but they want to do that content with their friends. So maybe that'd be a really cool way.
So you mean gifting ESO Plus as well?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. If somebody didn't have ESO Plus,
right? Can you gift ESO Plus?
People to get ESO Plus. So Jibbs and I always tell people, if you think you're going to play a game on the regular, ESO Plus is 100%.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Oh, you can gift ESO Plus?
Not through the game. You can't.
No gift ESO Plus in game.
Not gift ESO Plus in game. No.
Okay.
So it gets to this very complicated mechanic, and this is all things we can talk about. We've talked about it with Zoss on stream before. That like it's complicated server, and it has to do with stuff with other consoles more so. But ESO Plus being gifted is kind of it happened with streamers prior to my time, and it's kind of been resurrected again. They can do codes for PC players, so you guys might see that with some streamers giving those away.
Cool.
And I don't know. I don't want to jump in too soon. Kash, were you wrapping?
No, sir. I'm ready. I was waiting for you.
Okay, good. Because I didn't want to barge in on your thing. But it's funny because in our stream we have a pitch for ESO Plus, because like you guys are saying, it's something if you're going to be a real I don't want to say real player, that sounds bad. It's something where if you're going to be a long-term player, you're going to want ESO Plus, I believe. It's much harder to get serious with crafting if you don't have it and all those things. But when we think of new players, I don't think that, well, I can tell you for myself that the crafting bag didn't catch me, because I think that's one of those, my chat always wants to jump in and say like, crafting bag's the main selling point. But when I started, it was actually the 10% experience buff that really got me. And then when I push it out to people, I'm always touting the cost of the DLC itself, because I tallied that up the other day, and I already forgot the number. It's just 2 days ago now, so my brain's bad. But it was like $170 or so, maybe close to $200 to buy out the DLC with an approximate crown conversion rate. Like if you're buying cheap crowns, like small packs, I should say. Very expensive. But you know, if you pay $15 a month, approximately USD, you're doing it a monthly sub, that rents it all for you, and that's great. And then, Jebro, I think you said it's the crowns. I mean, they give you $16.50 worth of crowns every month. Yep. That's crazy. That starts to add up. So if you start to do the math, it really adds up that ESO Plus is a really strong deal. Then you start to throw in all the quality of life things, like your bank space being doubled, the housing space, the crafting bag, the this, that, the other. And it all brings me back to this idea, trying to wrap it around, that I personally don't think 5 days of ESO Plus would be great at the start. And I have to throw it to chat and say, I like your guys' idea of doing it later on in the experience, because I try to think of what would scare people away from the games. And if I logged in and I ran right into the Dark Brotherhood stuff in the Gold Coast, and I didn't really realize that was content gated, and then I get locked out of the zone midway through the quest as a brand new player, I may be really hesitant, and I feel like you've torn something away from me. I'm not saying that's guaranteed for every player.
No. That's an absolute valid point. I mean, that's a very good point. I mean, you know, which is why the question, exactly. It's like, is it something that is the beginning of the game, to go back to kind of what I said earlier, or is it like you say in the chat says as well? It's a very, very valid point. It's true, you know, because not everyone wants to see a store when they log into the game immediately as well. Like you say, it's just like, oh god, pay to win, and it's like, it could just be that thing which is implanted in their heads, even though we know it's not. But you know, for a new player, it could be. So you know, if it was something at the beginning of the game, it would have to be worded correctly. If it was, if it's something later, you know, and it is whether or not they would want to. Do they need to? It's just one of those things, you know, with that new player experience. There's something, because I feel like people do miss out on the information of ESO Plus, and even if there is that kind of player that still loves the challenge, that they play MMOs to get to the level 50, to get to the max level, because that's actually just the way they like to play an MMO, in the quickest time they can. Almost like a speedrunner, you know. There are many people out there that like to do that, and then their game experience really just does start at 50, at like you know, that max level.
I actually like that idea. You want to give people the coffee black first and get them hooked on that, and once they get the caffeine high, they're like, this is pretty good. Then you give them a little bit of flavored coffee, and then once they're a true coffee aficionado, then you introduce creamer.
And then espresso.
This is amazing.
It's a vanilla creamer. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I know what you mean. Okay.
I love to dabble in what, like, I mean, I come from a PR background. Like, that's my previous jam. So I like to come from that approach of what kind of works with retention and stuff. And Gina and I played around with the idea around Christmas time of using some crown store items to send to people, new players, and this can be done in game by anybody, that you can send kind of care packages to people. And I know this is diverting a little bit from ESO Plus, but that is kind of cool. When you're new to a game, you don't even know how good the items are, like that you're getting into. Any gift is a great gift.
Absolutely.
Because you just don't know. So we'd send people what is it, the fortifying crown food, 10 of them was like 400 crown. And we'd send that to new players that were like, we could tell had a real interest in it. And many of them kept playing for months. Now, I mean, again, this is that sort of thing where it's like, did that really matter? You kind of have to weigh it out in your head. I like to think it did, because I mean, you just feel special if someone invests in you in some small way.
It doesn't matter what it is as well. Almost like you say, he almost doesn't. That is actually in the document as well. As we go, like there is actually, we're actually to no. You've brought something up. It means you're thinking in the same path as I am, as we all are. You know, there is something about the gift, but this was more of a general player kind of thing. You know, where I had the thought as well, you know, it seems that we've all had this kind of image in our heads, you know, as like a care package, because you do get it as you level up, but it feels like a standard thing, you know, you hit the level markers and whatever, but when you enter a specific zone maybe where, you know, you might need a little bit of a helping hand with some extra food or something, you get a mail and say, you know, you might need this or whatever, or you know, you've been playing the game for a certain amount of hours. You know, here's a flipping outfit or something. You know, just a cheeky little thing that doesn't cost much money for them. And it sounds like you guys, you know, you've already been talking to Gina about this anyway, and it sounds like something that is already there. It's very unique. It's very, again, it's that personal touch, which is what, you know, all you guys were talking about in terms of your own guild, and that's reaching out to the player, to the person individually, to make them feel special, and that is an actually really important thing to do, because it can help relationships grow, not just with people, but with games, with content, with media. Which, you know, now I know that Kyle's kind of PR background is a very, very important for that connection. We all know now.
It's true. It is true. Now we know.
It's good. We've actually done a bit of that in Loreseekers. We gift goats.
Oh, that's cute. That's cute.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah, no,
we do. Gift goats.
Jibbs is like, oh god, no, it's really going.
You know, they're all about guar and goats. That was never me. They're all about their goats. I was like, what? All right, we need to go to emoji Jibbs. That crap. All right.
We are the cult of guar.
I wish that we could gift the pack. There's one on the store, and it's exclusive to your own account, a self-purchase. That is the starter pack, or maybe it's the advanced starter pack with the little
black kitten.
Yeah.
Yes. Agreed.
And I wish you could gift that, and I don't even think they knew that you couldn't gift it, because that was one of their suggestions, like, gift that item, and I'm like, well, we can't. It's an exclusive. But man, I love that idea of gifting goats, because that's, you know, we gifted food because I mean, those fortifying crown meals are useful for a new person, but I mean, a pet makes you stand out. You're like, look at me, I got something from someone that I like. This guild took me under their wing. They sent me a pet. I can play with it. I can put it in my my free inn. And I know we're starting to, this is moving into the next segment on accident, but I think that making your mark in the world is also a very important thing. And I think they kind of realize that with, like, well, we'll give you a free place to live where you can put that sort of stuff, and you have a pet to follow you. I don't know. I think you guys are doing it right with that approach. That's very cool.
Yeah, maybe even an idea for is to come up with some kind of a giftable beginner player pack. And it would be maybe similar to a crown crate that would have, you know, some stuff that could certainly help you at the beginning. So some potions, and maybe some poison.
Well, the same kind of interaction as well. Do you mean like with the cards and stuff? I think that's actually really cool.
Would be awesome. Maybe a beginner's crate that we could, as a guild, gift to our new members. That would
you go. Beginner crate.
That would be sick. You could have varying experiences, but maybe you're guaranteed something. You should be guaranteed something cool. I think, like a pet. Like you get a something, and then the other like free things, like a goat. Imagine if you could have custom crates that you could create for people as well. Like you could be like,
that'd be awesome.
And depending on how much money you spend in it,
pick 5 items.
Oh god, our podcast ESO Plus Store Cod podcast is now going to be born. This is going to be a future topic. This is it. It's got to be done.
That's a beautiful idea.
Good lord.
A small distinction I saw you guys draw, and I think that was you, Jebro, that said this was I think it's important that these things are gifted from real players, though, and that's very hard to do as a company, right? But the level up rewards, I think you said, feel standard, and they do. I mean, they're really cool. Like, level up rewards meant a lot to me my first time through. I was like, this is really neat. When you don't know what's coming next, that's even cooler. But I think it has an extra special touch when the community can gift it. And you know, clearly they've tried to encourage this, right? We got a pig for gifting around Valentine's Day. We got a griffin for gifting around the Christmas holidays. And so they are, you know, clearly focused on trying to do that. I have to imagine, like we were kind of all in agreement that it builds that interaction between two players. It's a generosity sort of thing. So I don't know how you work that in. I mean, I guess you just empower players in the game with systems like that they get a reward for a gift. I love that idea of kind of some sort of crate thing you could give out in that way, because crates mean a lot to people. But it can't be the same level up system. I mean, that and the daily login rewards are awesome. Don't go anywhere. But they feel mechanical. Right, there's no love behind those. Even if someone on their side did have love in putting it in, it just you know, that doesn't equate to the standard player getting in here. So I don't know. I think we're on to something. I just don't know where that goes from there.
I know it's very interesting. It's exciting to even think about. So you know, the actual getting and doing and having, and because it doesn't give just gratification for the you know, it gives gratification for the gifter as well. You know, like you know, and the creation of that. Gift, like Kash was saying, like, you know, give to that player, it would, damn, that would be something no one does, you know, something really no one actually does at all. And I think ESO already in their game and in their mechanics of some of the things they do already are doing things like drops for Twitch streams as well, which nobody else is doing. Whereas drops is a difficult subject for me. I love and I hate drops, but I think it's inevitably a positive thing. I think the positives outweigh the negatives. So something along that you can do in game with that kind of thing as well would be absolutely fantastic. Anyway, right, okay, I'm gonna shift it along. But great conversation about that. I'm loving this. Every single time we do this, you guests we have are just epic. Okay, so we're going to get out of ESO Plus a little bit here, because I think we've kind of gone through that. We love it. Get it now. But as soon as we've got we've got the Loreseekers boys on as well. And I'm not sure how much Kyle is into lore and ESO, and I mean I don't actually know. You could be very lore oriented. But the thing is that, and I'm speaking about this in terms of my own experience. One of the things that I was very worried about actually with Elder Scrolls Online was the fact that, I haven't really played. I think I played Oblivion, and that's it. And otherwise, I, as a gamer, like, me saying that, guys, you know what, I've not played Skyrim before, and I feel really bad about that fact. But
we're not mad at you.
Yeah, don't be too mad at me. I will one day. But it's like I got really invested in MMOs so early that anything else was just, kind of spending my time outside of that. So that's why I've actually gone into variety streaming myself, because I don't want to get too locked into something, because I've been so locked into games for such a long time. It's just my style and the way things I'm trying to do. But does that mean, if you have not played, and it's a general question because I obviously know the answer for myself, and I can say that after you guys have mentioned a little bit, do you need to know any lore before you enter ESO, or is ESO actually even a good start?
No, just hop in, man. Just hop in, dive in. Get yourself ESO Plus and get going. Get going. Pick up that first quest and just welcome to Elder Scrolls, man. Yeah. I mean, like, because if you think about it, like, this is going to be a lot of people's first time in Elder Scrolls. And we get that a lot in emails and in voicemails, is that, hey, I heard your show. I've never played ESO before. I've never played any Elder Scrolls title before. I'm playing this for the first time. Like, it. You don't need to know lore. Just come and enjoy the lore that's available to you. Pick up that first quest. You're going to have that creepy prophet invite you to his strange cave. Go do your thing. And just, yeah, Kyle, you know what's up. So, just go. So, you can. So,
this is not
just jump in and enjoy it, because that's what it's about. It's about the journey. It's not about, getting to the very end game. And really, though, in game is really where it really starts for you. Your champion points and all that stuff. But enjoy the journey, enjoy the ride, because that's what it's about. You don't need lore. I mean, you'll appreciate ESO more if you have lore. But from my perspective, I really don't think you have to have it. It's not a must-have.
Good stuff. Exactly. Yeah, I can agree. Especially after, I know it's definitely a question that has been asked to me as well, and it's definitely a question I asked, because I was like. I mean, funnily enough, Elder Scrolls, I used to be one of those people who would be like, unless it was really engaging. I think Star Wars, The Old Republic, had some really solid questing that I really did engage with. Unfortunately, I haven't really had that experience much, unless it's been voice-acted cutscene content in many MMOs that I've played, and I've played a lot. And ESO really pulled me in, man. I mean, the first zone completion, I haven't done many yet. Glanumbra, to get a house, to unlock a house so we could buy it as a guild. It was a big thing we had in our guild and stream for a while, when we all donated gold. But the only way I could buy it was to unlock the ability to buy it with gold, because you had to do 54 quests, right? And I did that on and off stream, and it was a big thing. And I got really pulled in, man. Like, it was just like this epic zonal quest that was just so well linked together, instanced in some respects, where I had valid choices that really changed everything that happened. And I was just like, what the do you know what I mean? I was like, I just never been pulled into a quest experience like that before.
And
that's awesome. Like, got him.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's just epic, and I haven't done many other zones, mainly because I actually just want to save them for when I don't have other stuff to do. And I've still got many to do. I've got many quests to do in this game. This is the beautiful thing about it. But you don't have to necessarily do them to get to end game and start playing the end game content, which is very important. Which is what you said, Jibbs. How do you feel about that, Kash? I'm guessing a similar point of view. Really, we're probably going to have a similar point of view about this.
Yeah. So Jibbs and I have never claimed to be and name of our shtick, lore seekers. We are seeking lore because we are not lore masters at all. We are learning this as a process together.
Yeah.
So with ESO, and particularly with ESO, it is certainly not required that you learn or know the lore or have played the other games before you start playing ESO. As a matter of fact, if you are new to the series or like you're on the fence about getting into the game because of that, starting with ESO is actually an incredibly great way to start, because they like spoon feed you the lore if you care to read it and listen to it. And that's what's so important. That's why Jibbs and I, we always speed through, like the old SWOTOR spacebar thing. Yeah. If you spacebar through the content, then a developer will lose its wings. Because when you pay attention to it,
I do feel bad about that.
It is a beautiful thing to see the work that has gone into these stories. And some of the stories are, I'm not kidding you, and maybe it's just because I'm a complete freaking softie, but there are stories in this game that have made me misty-eyed. There are stories in this game that have pissed me off. And then there's others that have just made me downright die laughing. Like, oh my God, I totally pick up on what they're trying to do here, and it's some reference to some real world thing, or it's just freaking funny. So they have put so much time into it, and they've laid everything out very nicely. There's things that Jibbs and I will research for our show, and then I'll go back and play a quest that just glances over the top of that particular amount of lore. So, now that we've researched it, we know a deeper sense of that particular thing, like the Heart of Lorcan, for example. We know a lot now about the Heart of Lorcan, but if you go to Morrowind, there are little bits and pieces of flavor for you to where you can put together what the story of the Heart of Lorcan was and how it was experienced from each of the different races or factions within that area. Because lore is always different. Lore is not necessarily set in stone. Lore is delivered to you from the opinions of the people who have heard a story or experienced it for themselves. So you're getting opinion when you hear lore. The beauty of ESO is that they feed you just enough to where you get a little bit about that particular thing. And at the same time, if you want more, then you can dive into the wormhole of the internet and find sites like UESP or the Imperial Library or the Wiki that we reference all the time when we're putting our show together. But there is a lot of choice there for you to either just know a little bit about it or know a lot about it. And with ESO being set in the middle of the timeline of Mundus and Tamriel, there are so many events that occur before Elder Scrolls Online, so many events that occur after Elder Scrolls Online, but ESO alludes to the history extremely well, and there's enough lore within ESO to like overflow your lore cup for sure. Yeah. So you don't need to have played the other games. You can jump right in with Elder Scrolls Online and learn just enough. And then if you want more and you want to dive, then you can play the other games or conflicts of alliances between races. You can learn history in each zone. And like when I say that, the one thing that pops to my mind is Morrowind. I know we've talked about that. There is so much Elder Scrolls history in Morrowind alone.
That's good stuff there.
In the Heart of Lorcan, in Lord Vivec, in Almalexia, in Sothasil. So much stuff that you could learn about that expands all around Tamriel. But it's there if you want it. That's the beauty of ESO. You can just glance right over the top, just learn a little bit. Yeah. Or you can learn a lot.
Nice. Well, I think that was well put there. I've probably listened to that story for a lot longer. But that's awesome. I mean, I completely agree. Let's go over to Kyle. Kyle, what do you think about that?
No, I'm glad these guys took it away first, because my biggest regret is I'm not involved in the lore, and I've played Oblivion and Skyrim and kind of been in the same boat. And I think that's kind of the magic of this universe. Again, with you guys saying that the lore is told always from the perspective of a single character in the game. I think all of that helps because you don't need to. I mean, I don't play Elder Scrolls Online off of Twitch. Like, I just don't game when I'm not streaming. I'm not gaming, and so what that means is I find it very hard for me to quest with my community because we are talking nonstop.
Sure.
So I can't sit there. What happens when I quest is very specific. I sit there, and there's a lady talking to us, and we sit in that one dialogue box for about 30 minutes to an hour, and nothing happens. Like, we just sit there, and that lady's just staring at me like, can I get back to my I really need to tend to my goats. Like, are we done? I'm like, hold on, and I go through one line of dialogue, and then I hold her for another like 15 minutes. And so I can't really quest myself with how I interact on stream.
Yeah. I understand that completely.
Very excited for the necromancers because I've promised myself to play one offline in a DPS role and just go through the world and try my best to tackle like one little area of a map at a time, and just if it takes me 2 years to get through all the quests, then so be it. But it'll be this non-rushing character, and I got that from other gamers and streamers, that idea that they'll have a character that's strictly for that. And I need that because I really wish I could just download all of this content into my brain, because I know the lore is good. It's great. I'm sorry. I know that it's great. And there are stories I've paid attention to in the past, especially the single player ones, that has stuck with me forever. Dark Brotherhood and Oblivion. That's some of those quests I can't get out of my mind. And I know we have them here. I mean, look, they just won that GLAD award yesterday for the quest in Somerset with alchemy. So I know it exists. I just don't have the time for it, and I need to make it. That being said, you can absolutely play the game without it, especially if you are group content oriented. I think if you're solo oriented, you're definitely going to be more in the questing. That's the road you're taking. Whether you choose to like absorb it or not, that's your choice. But if you're soloing, you're probably going to be feeling a lot of quest content out.
Right.
And I'm jealous of that in some ways. I really wish I could do more of it.
That's the thing, though, as a streamer and a content creator, because your questing is more of a solo experience. I mean, it is very difficult to share that in a meaningful way with a community, especially one like yours, Kyle, where you are so interactive with the people in the guild. When you're online, like you said, that's when you play Elder Scrolls and you're interacting with people. You're the guild leader, you're doing all the things, and you're talking to the people. I've been in your stream many times, and it's just like I have you on in the background while I'm working, because it's just a good conversation, and it's almost like I'm in the room. So it's like, it's always something where, if you go and do that quest, I've noticed myself, it's very difficult because that suddenly there's a bit of a drop off because people, your attention is slightly taken away, and that, I think that's definitely it's definitely a streamer thing. And actually, something came into my head that is very interesting that I would like to just mention very, very quickly. But again, what you're saying is very good. It's very important, but it is difficult for, like you say, like a streamer or content creator to do that unless you're creating a video that is like, I'm gonna do this quest. Watch and talk about it and your feelings and stuff. It's hard.
Now
I think it's go ahead, Kyle.
I was going to say the bright side is we have these guys here, and I just checked my podcast player. I've been very off of podcasts recently just due to a lack of time, and I don't have archive on for their show, so I literally have, I've listened to quite a few, but I have every single one of their episodes downloaded. I'm very excited to get back into it because they posted about the Necromancer today, and I don't know. I love the Necromancer, and that will be my main, but I don't know the lore. Like, I do, kind of, but I know I'm missing out. Like, I probably know the very tip of the iceberg compared to like what I was reading.
You guys have released this today?
Yeah, it's out on Twitter feed at Loreseekers Cast. There's a Kash does all the lore lessons. He writes them. He does a freaking amazing job.
Nice.
And so on our site at loreseekerspodcast.com, if you go under lore lessons, you'll find the Necromancer. And one thing I learned from listening to Kash's lore lesson was, just to be a good necromancer, it's about the care that you put into the dead bodies that are in front of you, putting them together. And that lore lesson talks all about that. So it's actually really cool.
The care that you put into the dead bodies around you.
Right?
It sounds like you're a mortician.
Necromancy is all about heart and soul. It's all about putting love into the craft.
That's right. Man. Love into the dead, man.
As a fun fact,
hand gestures.
A fun fact of lore for necromancy. The intelligence of the raised dead that a necromancer brings up is directly related to the intelligence of said dead corpse in life. So, like I've told Jibbs several times, if you decide to raise a dumbass from the dead, you are going to have a dumbass as a necromantic.
Imagine if the NPC, the actual minion that came up was called Dumbass 1. This guy's a dumbass.
Yep. The smart ones. And I just do want to mention real quick, Kyle, I completely understand where you're at with not being able to dive into the lore, especially if every time you are playing Elder Scrolls Online, you flip the switch with your stream.
Yes.
And my hat is off to you because that is an incredibly difficult thing to do. So if you've never caught Kyle's stream, please do so. I guarantee you will laugh your freaking shoes off every time you go into Kyle's stream. But I get what you're saying. Like even in Loreseekers in our Discord, we have a quiet room for seeking lore, which basically means if you want to still be part of the Discord, but you'll pop into that room with other people who are doing nothing but questing and want to hear the stories that they're experiencing in the game. And we actually with the latest content that came out with Wrathstone, we knew the story was going to be big. I mean, this is a year-long story that Zoss is putting together for us with all the latest content that's coming out. So what we did is we started to do dungeon nights where there was like nobody wanted to rush through the dungeons. That folks wanted to each of the 3 new dungeons go through slowly, take their time. There was nobody like, let's go, you know, like running out in front and pulling all the mobs. It's like, no.
That doesn't exist here.
Yeah, we take our time. We actually have it written into our code of conduct, believe it or not. If you are not going to enjoy the love that is thrown out in this lore and enjoy it, we may not be the guild for you. Because our folks sometimes, especially if it's the first time you've gone through a dungeon, you want to take the time to get through that story. And there's so many parallels in the story.
Of course.
Like if you've been through Volenfell, which I'm sure many of us have been through several times.
The first place I went through, I started in Morrowind, so it was
this particular dungeon of Volenfell, you are going to see some characters that pop up in Wrathstone from Volenfell. So take your time when you're going through them. Find a guild that will let you do that.
It was so epic. Like, and they actually changed. Didn't they change her? Not for spoilers, but we've been a while now. Didn't they? Didn't they change the lady's? I can't remember her name now. Jesus, outfit as well. Like in
Thariah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Did they change her outfit?
She's still as sassy as she was before.
Yep.
But Thariah, who, you know, poor thing, was going through a divorce in Volenfell.
Yeah.
She has a little reuniting with her dearly departed husband, which you end up killing in Volenfell. She has a really cool story. So, you know, Thariah, who's kind of a major part of those dungeons and actually allowing you to get the Wrathstone, she has a story. So if you take the time to listen to it, it's pretty cool. But my original point is that, Kyle, dude, I get it. You know, it's you. My hat is off to you for doing the stream that you do, and God, what an amazing community that you have, and just the gnat's butt attention that you pay to your community when you're streaming is pretty freaking cool. So. That's good. So if you haven't caught us,
thank you. But see that, I mean, I know we're all just sitting around complimenting each other, but that is why your content is so valuable, and I'm just super excited I have time to do it now, like listen and absorb. Because I don't like to half listen to lore, which is why I don't try it on stream. Like you said, you know, we're chatting and I hate going through quests and not really absorbing the point of it just to do them. And sometimes I'll do that, right? Like I'm like, I just need this achievement thing. I know I'll do it someday, I promise. And I'll skip through it. But I think what you said is really great, and we've started to do that with our guild too, or I'm encouraging them to group up more and do it together, is do those quests in the dungeon solo. So anyone out there in chat or listening to this, you guys can be this change where if you see someone or if you want to do a dungeon and learn the lore in there, shout that out. Be like, hey guys, I want to do a quest dungeon. Like, I want to actually go through it and listen, because so many people, and we created a channel in our Discord for that, looking for group channel, where people are encouraged to actually go. But you know, the thing is, the onus is on them. They got to say what they want to do and what their idea for, you know, what it's going to be. Like, I'm a new player trying to do a dungeon, or I want to quest through dungeons, because I always tell people the default mode for people doing dungeons, specifically through the looking for group finder, is going to be kill the boss, because that is what that finder is for. And at least this is my opinion, and I'm trying. It sounds like I'm making a fact, but my opinion, group finder is for killing bosses. It's not to enjoy the scenery, just because it is, in its essence, it's made for speed. It's made for, you know, convenience like that. And so the default gear for most people to be in is going to be die, die, die. So you can be that change, everybody. You can be the person that says, hey, who wants to quest through a couple dungeons? I'm on an alt. I want to listen to the lore, because it is there, but this is a game where you can skip the lore, you can enjoy the lore. And I see that frustrating people. Like, I see people, new players, being like, no one's taking the time.
Yeah.
I mean, please understand, it's not personal. It's just,
one thing is, I mean, LFG is definitely, I agree, it's definitely one of those things where a lot of the mindset is like immediately jumping in and trying to destroy shit as soon as possible. But it also does definitely hold a place for the solo player who's genuinely just trying to look for a group, right?
Sure.
So when I get into a dungeon sometimes, and I am guilty of kind of just running straight in sometimes. I'm definitely guilty of that. But there'll be the times where I say, you know, if it's really obvious that someone's new, or just say in party chat, have you ever seen the story before, or the quest before? If you haven't, say, and I will not move forward if I'm tanking or healing. Good. And I'll just say, you know, guys, it might be cool if this person can just experience that, you know, and it'll take like a couple of minutes extra. It's no biggie. And if they're not up for it, then, you know, I'll say, well, you might want to just rejoin. It'll take you a little bit of time if you want to find someone who do that, or even maybe I might join them in a separate group to just take them through. It's normally off stream.
And then you can come from group.
Sorry, and then you kick him in the grave.
Come on, dude, I gotta get through this. All right? I got crap going on IRL.
Oh man, I got laundry. It's waiting on me.
Say PvP.
Recently started to advocate against looking for group, and I know I probably shouldn't, but I want people to really enjoy their content. And I get so many people lately saying like, well, I'm getting kicked from the group because of, I'm a Dragon Knight healer and I got kicked. And I'm like, okay.
I mean, that's when it's in your community for sure. Yeah. Like, it's definitely like there's absolutely no reason if it's large, if it's a big group. But I've been in an MMO for so long without an LFG, and I can tell you, without it, it's fucking the worst. It's awful. Because you cannot complete content. You cannot even play content because no one's even getting into it daily for any reason. And it's like, it's almost, I definitely agree with you, Kyle, but it's definitely it's a definite good place as well, because sometimes, you know, you want to do some Undaunted, you want to join on, but that's then the further on thing. So maybe there's actually something that they could do in LFG, and I'm going off topic a tiny bit, so I'm going to bring it back. But where you can say LFG quest, you know, you've got another option, playthrough, you know, and it's maybe even timed or something like that, where people have the option to actually go in for the first time in a normal mode. It's piss easy. You just go through and you play the story and the lore, and then maybe there's some extra tidbits in there as well for people if they want to invest in that, you know. Maybe that's something they could do, I don't know. But LFG story, I mean, it's I think there's not, but then again, you're dividing community into different queues, right? But you know, LFG is pretty busy anyway, unless, you know, you're a DPS, you know, and you're queuing solo, you're going to be in there for a while anyway. But if you're 4 DPS, you know, and it was just a regular, normal, easy layout, and you're just learning the lore, you don't necessarily need a healer or a tank, and it could be a daily.
If it's 4 DPS, you're going to be done before.
True.
Oh yeah. I think at the end of the day, the best kind of questing is with your guild, whatever guild that is.
Exactly.
You know, if you want to get all the lore, get in a guild group. Don't go in a random group. A random group is a means to an end, right? We all want to get to the end, get the daily, get the XP, get the enlightened XP, and if you're doing vet, get that helm, you know, and get out.
Right.
So I would just anybody in chat, get in the guild group and just go have fun, because that's where you're going to get the most out of it.
This is very true. This is very true. Hopefully a big guild as well, where you can actually, there are people that can do that.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's, again, you know, something hopefully I can bring up in the future. We're actually doing pretty well. We're going to continue though. Very awesome opinions. Good stuff. Thank you very much, guys. That was awesome. Generally, in terms of lore, you don't need to know squat. So I checked out a chronological order timeline of the games and when they take place in the Elder Scrolls history. ESO is the first one, technically.
Yep.
In terms of the history.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Someone said it in chat electric earlier as well. Holy, I know you asked a question earlier. It was about 15 minutes ago. If you are still in the chat, you can ask questions at the end. I have not seen your question. Your question is an important one. It's about why you should buy the game in the first place, which is before really anything that I've spoken about today, but probably just something we should answer about. Just do it. Just do it is one definite, quick, good answer, to be fair. So one thing I wanted to talk about. So we're kind of out of the. We're not even in the tutorial yet. We're out of character creation. We talked about. Do you know what I mean? It can really go on, can't it? But we're having such great conversations. It's almost like you could pick one aspect of this experience and just make a series. I almost kind of wish I'd done that. In retrospect, it's probably a little bit late for that now. Retrospect is such a good thing. But as we're talking about gameplay, as you're a new player now, people either love or they hate ESO combat. There is a very, very... There doesn't seem to be an in-between, as far as I've seen. And Guild Wars 2 is again the example I'm going to use, because it is more action. It is action combat as well. There is tab targeting and stuff as well, but you know, there is an actual mode where you can go into action combat, which is really what ESO is, where the cursor is your pointer. You know, you are looking at stuff, you're placing AoEs, and it's different, and it's, you know, there's a lot of, especially when I played VMA, Veteran Maelstrom Arena, I really hooked into how, I mean, I obviously knew how important block was, how to interrupt, all these different things. But VMA just brought it to a new level. My individual responsibility to do that. It's like, if you don't do that, you are not gonna win. You are not going anywhere. You can't get carried through this. You are on your own. If you want to get this thing done, you've got to play it right. And the best experience I've had so far in solidly, properly, like, appreciating the mechanics in this game, that might sound awful, is VMA. It's taught me the best, especially in terms of my own rotations and everything, because if you don't rotate your abilities correctly, you really can drop a lot of damage, a lot of buffs, a lot of protection, you know, warding,
right,
and everything. At the beginning of the game, do you guys feel that you're taught enough about the fact that ESO has this really unique system in a block, in a dodge, in a interrupt? Do you think it's important that people know this? That is even a thing, really? Because you are taught a little bit, right? But it's not that in depth. Like, does it have a place? Because do you want a casual player to really be inundated with this information, or a player who is really experienced, you know, might like to know this stuff because it might be, you know, their thing. You know, I mean, I'll throw it over to, let's go to Kash first, actually.
I got a pretty poignant opinion on this, and the reason being is I was there at the beginning. So remember the differences coming from a almost complete tab targeting and just mash the buttons game, World of Warcraft, which trust me, I'm not taking anything away from World of Warcraft. Yeah, no, a lot of my damn money. I've played a ton of World of Warcraft, and I loved everything.
Kyle nods furiously.
So much World of Warcraft. So going from a game that has a ton of skills and is tab targeting and more of a stagnant game, I would say, when it comes to combat, and then going to ESO, which is incredibly dynamic, which the only game that I can really say that I played a ton of that had a lot, that had some of what ESO had, was maybe Star. That makes me really an old gamer.
Yep.
But at the same time, that
Star,
game had telegraphs on the ground. There was a lot of stuff going on that trained the player to move around dynamically.
Yep.
Elder Scrolls Online certainly has that. You cannot play this game and hit a button and walk away and make a sandwich. You'll be dead by the time you get back. Trust me, the way ESO is, and I would never have it any of the way that it works. Things move all the time. You got to pay attention. That being said, could they make it better so players understand where to go, where to stand, how to dodge? I think they're good, to be honest with you. And the reason being is because when one Tamriel, it made all the content scale to your level. Mm-hmm. So we talked about that, picking a direction to go in. You pick that direction to go in, you're going to encounter something in that whatever direction you pick, and that something will be at your level. So if you're not quite at the point as a brand new player, if you're not quite at the point to understand that you don't stand in the red stuff, or understand what it means, because they do teach you when a character or when an NPC is kind of doing this with his sword and there's a bunch of red shiny things coming out of him, you need to either interrupt or you need to move. You can see when their ultimates are coming. You can see when their channeled effects are coming. There are ways to interrupt. It teaches you right at the beginning how to interrupt. So if anything, with those tooltips enabled, maybe for the first 5 levels, maybe 10 levels, it gives you a little thing that pops up on your screen that says interrupt now.
Yeah.
That would be fine.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm of the opinion that if you're going to play the game, you are going to learn what not to do.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, I was recently in a group with several players who've been playing the game for quite a while that didn't know how to break a crowd control. So say the NPC that you're fighting is crowd controlling you. They didn't realize what to do with your mouse, and this is on PC, what to do with your mouse in order to break that crowd control. Even though it pops up every single time, you don't notice it anymore at level 50 and CP levels. You don't notice it, but it's there. So do I think they need to do more things to teach you how to break away from this or that? No, because I think it's all already there. We as gamers just learn what's important and what's not important to pay attention to on our screen, or what we choose to and what we choose not to pay attention to on our screen. But if your tooltips are enabled, it's all there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So.
Yeah, no, I can agree. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Kyle or Jibbs? I'm not sure who wants to give it.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Okie doke. Mechanics are important depending on the content that you're playing. I mean, knowing what they do is going to save your butt a lot of the time. And I definitely agree with what Kash said in a lot of this, if you're coming from a game like World of Warcraft, you can go make a sandwich. This is not that game. You need to be very tuned into it.
There's no sandwich making here, people.
No sandwich making. My stream has a new mechanic now where they can make me play with my eyes closed on occasion, and it is hilarity. Honestly, the hardest bosses are the hallways for me with my eyes closed. I can't get through those. But the hallways, they're like, Kyle, you need to turn. And I always have someone in Discord trying to guide me.
Stuck
like,
with
turn
my
left.
eyes open.
But so those are beating me, the hallways. I haven't beat that boss yet. But when you're actually in combat, I mean, the amount of mechanics you need to diagnose, or understand, I should say.
No, in a way, it's like diagnosing sometimes because you need to work it out.
You need to know. I think gosh, this is a hard concept for me to describe in words sometimes, but you need to meet a certain level for whatever content you're going to take on, right? So if you're doing normal content, people shouldn't be afraid of doing normal dungeons. Those are going to be they should be sufficient for almost anyone of any skill set to get into. But veteran dungeons are significantly harder. They go up about 3 times the difficulty as normal. There's not a smooth stepping stone between the two. And so your understanding and need to know these mechanics is going to drastically increase. Meaning you can stand in the poop in a normal dungeon, you cannot in a veteran dungeon. It's going to one-shot you. Literally, you can't. You will die instantly. And so there's a difference to that. And if you're questing in the overland content, you can stand in most attacks and you're going to be perfectly fine. It's kind of the way of the game telegraphing these two in different ways. Like this is why I really on my stream encourage people not to race to endgame. We have a training wheel system intentionally here that I quite love, where you are you have bigger buffs to your health bar as you start out, and it decreases over time. That's to teach you, in the early game, your character feels powerful still. It's not boring. World of Warcraft has a really boring start when it takes 100 wand hits to kill a wolf. That's lame for me. Our game, you go out there in the world and you instantly feel powerful with your class, and that is really cool, and it should hopefully empowers you as a player. But that means, though, if you race to endgame, you miss all the mechanics, you don't learn how they work, you're going to get smacked across the room really fast by even overland mobs if you just have been grinding dolmens and absorbing that experience as you go. So in that way, I think mechanics are very important. There are a lot of them. There are a lot that people aren't used to. There are some that people don't know about. Still, I've seen people not use their skills in dungeons at all and just light attack. So I think it's kind of hard to get people to know how all of this works together at one time, because there's people coming from other MMOs, like a lot of us in this chat here, where we've done a lot of other games. So coming in here, I'm like, well, okay, I got WoW under my belt, and I know what Skyrim and Oblivion are like. So if I can marry those two in my head with the help of chat, giving me some advice, that's great. But a lot of us don't have that kind of support network when we start, like we said, and this is our first Elder Scrolls game. People may not have, they may conversely, they may be coming over saying, this is Skyrim too, right? So how am I, I'm gonna get in here.
Oh god, that's the question, isn't it? That's the part, right? Like I really enjoyed Skyrim. I can't wait to get into ESO, and then it's like, I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, I've watched people play, and I've played for like 15 minutes, and I know that it's not the same. But
we always have that conversation. I ask, what is your experience with MMOs? What's your experience with this universe? And that's kind of the best way I can guide people into telling them what combat is like. Because sometimes I'm reinventing the wheel if they're coming over from a different MMO. Other times I'm, explaining some concept from a new. And I'm kind of digressing here, so we'll come back to that. But giving instructions for the mechanics can be very difficult. Just period, full stop.
Sure. I mean, it sounds like you and Kash are kind of in agreement in terms of, it sounds like in general what you're saying is there is some onus on the player to understand these, to have the responsibility if they want to experience their content, to learn the mechanics. In terms of the intro and in the new player experience, that extends all the way to level 50. It's not even the intro of what I'm talking about specifically as well, and you guys keep coming towards we always keep switching the conversation to the end game as well, because the end game is also the new player experience. It's not just leveling, it's not just creating the character. So I just want to say that as well, that even I am now almost just upon a year. I mean, it's like April the 17th. I've got the date when I started. I've never done that before for some reason in my head.
It is weird.
It's weird. It's really odd. But, and I still introduce myself as a new player. Because I still I don't stream it every single day. But I've still got, I've got enough hours in it. I've now completed the VMA, I've done all of the vet stuff. I PvP, I Cyrodiil. I'm talking to you guys a lot as well, and I'm gaining those experiences about the game. But I've still barely touched the game, in terms of lore, into the questing and everything. And I still really consider myself still a new player, which is, quite interesting.
Sir, I hate to tell you, and apologize for if you've made it through VMA. You are not a new player anymore. You have arrived.
No shit.
It's really awkward. I've been told that, in some of my arguments and conversations about things, I'd be saying, you're not new anymore. You've conquered this.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, I'm not. It's okay. And we'll go through his raids. Okay. Good. Good stuff.
I'm not going to lie to you, and I will say that your listeners aren't sure what VMA is. It's Veteran Maelstrom Arena. It's content that's was released. It's up in Rothgar. It is by far, at least to me, the most difficult content in this game solo. It is definitely by far the hardest content in any game I have ever played. And it's a progression of a bunch of different rounds that you go through in several different, I think there's 9. Is there 9 arenas? It all became a giant frigging blur to me after a while.
Same. But Jesus, same. Absolutely.
It's so difficult to get through on your first time because you have to go through it again and again and die multiple times to understand the mechanics of each round of each arena. But the reward for what you get, and no, on my first get what, but the reward for what you get makes you feel like you can do anything in this game because it's all you. It's all 100% you and your build and how you've prepared for it.
If anyone wants to know what that feels like as well, please, I'm one of the mods, you clipped this last night. If you don't like swearing, please just maybe don't watch it. But I'm known as like a hype caster, like in terms of my commentating and everything else, but I'm very calm voiced as well because of my therapy training and stuff. So it's like I go from this to like the other end and in split seconds. So I'm not always very excited. That's just the way I am. And
did you throw your keyboard in vet? Yes or no?
I actually almost flipped my chair when I finished it. But that was when I finished it. I don't normally rage and punch things and throw things because, again, the training kind of kicks in. And I just vent it back into the game and I use it constructively. Thankfully, that takes a lot of training.
I think I probably would have benefited.
I could be your therapist in VMA.
Honestly, if you want the equivalent of that, then if you're a male, you can punch yourself in the groin 10, 15 times because that will equal the amount of pain that you'll go through. If you're a female, then
did you say punch yourself in the groin?
Yeah. That's how it felt for me. No. It took me 3 days, and I had gotten through.
We're finding out some stuff about you.
I had gotten through normal, but it took me 3 solid days to get my Sork through VMA, and it was a lot of death and a lot of repairing and a lot of frustration, a lot of walking away from my computer. A lot.
Full disclosure, I'm glad you completed that before we recorded the next episode.
Wow. Right, we're gonna move on. Jibbs, did you have something to say about that as well?
No, I think they nailed it. If anything, at the end of the day, if you wanted to have further instruction, further coaching, I think it'd be beneficial if they had an advanced tutorial that is set in the Maelstrom Arena atmosphere, where it's just a circular area, and you've got advanced tool tips, and they can tell you why you should do things. Other than that, they nailed it.
I love that. I love that.
Why
exactly.
You died.
Exactly.
And the caption says "suck less."
That's exactly what I was going to suggest as well. Something like that would be really, really good, actually. Like an advanced tactical training, something like similar. Maybe even if you could just insert it into your guild housing, you put like an NPC or something there, and as an interrupt mob or something like that. But you would be punished if you didn't do it successfully or whatever. And it takes away your stamina. Yeah, go for it.
I will say this on VMA. If you want the best possible training for VMA, aside from the video made there, go solo world bosses. If you can solo world bosses, if you're at that level, healing and shielding and producing damage on your character, then you're probably ready for VMA.
I'm going to add another thing to what you just said. Do it without watching a video. That's what I did. I did not watch any guide my first run.
That's
one
awesome.
thing, and when I couldn't get it completely, I asked chat for a hint. That didn't happen that often, but I'm proud to say that I worked out those mechanics myself, and it was flipping difficult, but I love doing that, which is part of the reason why I don't take part in PTS, unfortunately, because I just don't like to spoil I like to just experience all this stuff.
Right.
But that's from a content creation perspective. I partake very much in alphas and player test servers and PvP games because I want to help balance and everything else. And I feel bad because there's two sides to it. I really want to help and influence what is being done and pull out bugs and stuff. But at the same time, I really want to experience that for the first time on my character, like live. And so there's always two sides of me where I might jump into PTS to try skills and stuff, like to help balance. Right. So, you know, there's just different things. So that was just the whole VMA thing. And now I've taken it completely off. So I'm going to shut up. There's so much you can talk about this game. I actually almost like talking about it just as much as playing it. And these podcasts I just absolutely love. So if anyone ever out there wants another guest on their podcast, I'll gladly come onto it and just waffle.
Noted.
Definitely, absolutely. Okay, so I've got leveling actually. Damn, I'm actually getting question is it? Oh, see, this is actually one thing I did want to talk about. I know we're getting to about 2 hours, so if any of you do need to go, that's absolutely fine. We can kind of wrap it up after this, or we continue for a little bit longer if you want. I don't know what you're doing with your days. I don't want to interfere with your days, because
carry on.
Could be your day.
When my wife pops in that door, then you'll know it.
Okay. Oh crap. That accurate. She's obviously an awesome woman.
The speaker of the Dark Brothers.
I mean, yeah. If she ever wants to make that kind of thing for me, man, that thing is sick.
Sign us up.
That is, I'd pay for that stuff, man. Damn. By the way, who would not pay for something like that sitting behind Kash? Like that's your wife that created that, right?
That's all my wife.
That is some talent
amazing.
right there.
Amazing.
It's absolutely beautiful. And like you can see on his, I don't know if I've got it on the. I just want to sell your. Apparently, just promote your wife's artwork for all of a sudden and creativity. I just like doing that. I think we're all the same. We like to try and promote people in different ways. But all the artwork behind you and stuff is just wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. And definitely pass that on to her. But leveling. Okay, so let's continue. It's a bit of gameplay, questing, where to go, what to do, how easy is it to currently understand and get into as a new player in terms of questing, like where you actually have to go. So one of the main complaints I had when I was probably starting myself, but not as much because I kind of like exploration anyway, was like, what? I'm in Somerset. This isn't the beginning of the game, or is it? And Morrowind, like, okay, but I didn't start in the base game, so what am I missing? Like, there's not really any. So it's like, okay, you might not be missing anything, but you don't know that. And it's like, okay, if I go through to Somerset and other bits and pieces, I may have missed something from the story earlier on in the main story, or zones where I would have met these characters. But now all of a sudden I'm meeting them in the main story, and there might be something there which, I'm not hooked into, because this happened to me. I played the main story and I actually missed some of the zonal quests where these characters got introduced. And the people in chat were saying, oh, there's Thingy from that zone quest. And I'm like, what? This is the first time I've met her. But the thing is, during the quest, it doesn't tell you that. So, unless I had streamed, most people won't have a stream chat telling them that. But there is that fact that, when you start off and play through the game, there's so many ways to go, and that's very beneficial and that's awesome. Is that good? Should there be more of a defined route? Should you really constrain a player to that really, baseline story? You should go and do this, that, the other, then to experience the whole of the game, really how it's meant to be experienced? Or is it your experience to have? And I've got very, very opinions of this. I am the person who, just before chat, these questions that I ask aren't necessarily because I have strong opinions or views. I just want to hear other people's opinions and views on them, because there's very, very different ones out there about this. I know that just from my own chat. And they do find it it's almost like a really inner conflict. It's like, now I kind of want to buy the DLC. I mean, before I play the game, should I buy Somerset? Like, I want to start in the base game. I don't want to start further on. And if I buy that, like, so at the moment, when you start a brand new character, you start in Somerset at the moment, right?
If you have Somerset.
Good
Which
point.
is the key, because you'll start default or at what the last expansion that you've purchased.
Exactly. Right. So it could be Morrowind, or it could be based on if you just have that. So maybe if you do want to just experience that in its original state, although I suppose you don't want to ever experience that in its original state. Hi guys, here is the original launch. Oh God, no, please. But you know what I mean. Like, I mean, Kyle, if you want to take this on first, it's a really open-end, big question. I know I really realize it's difficult. But in terms of where you start. And how you go. If you had all of the DLCs, you've got the expansions, you just come into the game and you're like thinking, okay, is this a good experience? How I go through the game from here, and I'm in Somerset as a player. Did you have that feeling? I mean, where did you start? Because you started last March, so was it Morrowind?
Right. So this is a big question. So I started in June after Somerset, but I did not own Somerset. So they put me into the slave Morrowind style introduction to it. And I think there's so many different ways to take this question, like you kind of said, because it's about many different players' responses. Arguably, one of the most popular statements in the community is, no, we should all still start in the original tutorial, because it lines up a main quest that has many skill points locked behind it, 11, I believe. Yeah. So you've got a lot of reasoning to be there. It was set up as the introduction to the game. And therefore, people still, I think, maybe even just out of tradition and nostalgia, want new players to go there. Since I didn't experience that first, I tend to think people can, kind of should be able to start wherever they want in any of these tutorials. Some people think the Somerset tutorial is not a great one, that it doesn't introduce you to much in a good way, that it's either too fast or that it just kind of dumps you out into a map that is a little bit harder than others in terms of mechanics right out of the gate. I've heard that from my co-host Stark there, who says that the Morrowind one is a bad one because when you get out of it, and admittedly, this is where I started, you go straight up against a troll for the most part, and it's healing itself and it's doing all kinds of things like that. So you're already up against advanced mechanics where I didn't really know that I could bash it or anything like that to probably interrupt its heal. That was a hard start. Now, one of my favorite things the chat did, because I know this offends everyone almost everyone in the community, but I don't like Morrowind. I think volcanoes and mushrooms are unpleasant.
What?
I know!
Oh my God!
I know, they're hearts!
Quick!
I
can't hear you anymore, Kyle. Are you still there? Are you still there, Kyle?
Don't let me go.
Oh my blood pressure.
I'm sorry, everyone take a deep
I'm almost 40. Calm down.
So chat told me I could leave, and it was the best experience.
I mean, you can do
ever.
that as well.
Because I didn't know how way shrines work when you start. So I left, and I had a blast. I can't remember where they actually told me to go. I think they got me on the right track. They sent me to the DC starter area. So I got, I was on what starts with I or whatever.
Daggerfall.
Hey,
dirty.
The only good faction, DC. So I actually went through it that way, and I think that was great. It was helpful. I did not really pursue the main quest right away because, again, not a super huge main quester, man. I can't remember, to be honest. But when I was starting in Morrowind, I got myself straight into some like public delve content, which was really cool. So I actually went out there and saw that sort of stuff. So again, I'm taking it from multiple angles here. We got people that want you to start the main quest first. We got people that want you, I personally come from the stance of play whatever zones you think are the most aesthetically pleasing to you. Yeah. And I happen to think that Somerset is one of those because had I been locked into Morrowind first, I don't know if I'd still be here playing ESO, because I keep in mind I still had an active WoW sub, right? So like this is a 1-day vacation for me. I'm still on my 1-day WoW vacation, almost a year later. But there was nothing keeping me here. And had I had a bad experience or something at the start, that would have been a little and I could have never come back.
So wait, that experience you had with Morrowind specifically was about questing, or was it about
was aesthetics. The whole zone.
The area,
you get out of the tutorial, you fight hard mobs. They kind of kick your butt. You know, I died a good bit to things that I probably wouldn't have died from if I were in like definitely would not have died from if I were in the Stros Mackay, Glenumbra area to start out. Like the mobs there would not have smacked nearly as hard or had such mechanics under their belt. So,
I mean, to add like a contradicting, it's not contradicting, it's an opposite view. I started in Morrowind, and Morrowind sold me on the game. Like, it completely sold me. So, and that's just like a personal preference opinion thing, isn't it? It's just like
that's
but
totally
maybe
what it is.
What you're talking about is something where I feel like, especially when you said about the beginning, your point about people mainly talking about the base game. The main thing here is, I think it's important that you have an option. That you have an option of where to start. And then the only person to blame for that initial experience is, guess who? It's me.
Right.
You know, and then you can at least say, well, you know, why don't you try starting off in the base game instead of, you know, doing X, Y, Z? You have to go to this boat, you have to then see this person, they come and, you know, do whatever. I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't played the base game because it's awesome.
Spoiler alert, people die.
Yeah, it's definitely death.
People die.
Death is the thing.
But I mean, before I pass it on, I mean, that's been something the community has been asking for, right? Is an option. Because like we said, there are so many different angles, and you and I had just a difference of aesthetic opinion, right? Like you liked a zone better for reason X and I didn't like it for reason Y. And so that's one of our most given out pieces of advice on stream is play. I always tell people, because we have the blessing of one Tamriel and you can play wherever you want, it's all leveled to you or you to it, whatever you want to say. You can go and enjoy whatever content you like. So if you like vampires, get your butt up to Rivenspire and play through that. If you hate vampires, don't go to Rivenspire, maybe ever. And so that's something to take advantage of. But I think you're right.
That's the thing as well, and it is, and maybe I'll ask someone else about this as well. Is that? But you don't know how to get to these places. That's the kind of the problem, isn't it? And it's like we're kind of blessed with a stream chat. It's like stream chat is our guide, right? Whether or not you've got 10 people or 200 people, there's at least a few people there who are experienced, probably saying you can go here, this, that, the other. Like, you know, I've got people who might send me some pots for VMA. I'm just saying, for, you know, who might be able to help me out. Like, we're quite blessed in that way. And we're very, very lucky. But the new player definitely doesn't have that unless they look for a guide and they have to go on Google. And again, that's them onus on them. But I don't think it should be that way for sure. I definitely think the option is just so important. But then if you're coming to what you say about yourself, it would have been nice maybe to have, you know, say something in game, you know, are you maybe not that happy with where you are right now? You have an option. Would you like to be placed in, you know, there is different tutorial options, there's different zones that maybe we can start you on a quest, like saying, you know, Glenumbra or wherever. You can start by, and they give you a basic synopsis of like the quest and the experience. I don't know if that's again too guiding or whatever.
The beauty of this game though too, this is a social game. An MMO by nature is a social game. So even if you are a solo player, you can still type in zone chat and ask the question. And like I was saying before, you're going to run in maybe a few little trolls, which for the most part it's well-spirited. They're just ribbing you a little bit as a new player, but you're going to get the answer that you need. I'm not kidding you. I pay attention to zone chat. And when a new player has a question, if somebody else isn't answering it, which is very rare, then I'll just hop in and answer it.
Yeah.
So you're going to get the answers that you need if you ask. Now, I could see that, as a new player, you're not going to know that option exists for you to move from one place to another.
Yeah.
So I get that. But at the same time, this game is complicated in many different ways, and I'm okay with it.
Absolutely.
It's refreshing to see a game that's complicated in a lot of ways. To some players, it's going to turn them off. To those players, if you're out there, I would say,
give it a bash.
Find a guild.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Join it. Enjoy the people that are around you. Might you have a terrible experience? Yeah, you might find the guild full of douches. Because they're out there, trust me. But you might nail it and find a guild that is amazing. And trust me, I see advertisements all the time for guilds that are gearing towards, we do all types of content and we cater to the new player. What more of an invitation is there than that? If they're not for you, then leave and find.
And you'll be able to find those guilds.
There are so many avenues for you to find help out there in this particular spot. Now, if you think, okay, now I'm going to switch gears here and think corporate. A corporate business cannot have some type of every single little thing that could happen, right? I think it's the same in an MMO environment. A game cannot have a tutorial for every single little tiny thing in its large, complicated game.
It's the beauty of the internet.
Some of it, as like Kyle was saying, is out there for you to explore and learn, and you can only time. And that experience is golden. So get out there and dig and, poke. Get your little stick and poke. And find out those things about this game, those little idiosyncrasies about this game that make it so charming and wonderful to learn and make it an experience. That's my personal opinion.
No.
Now I'm jumping off my soapbox.
Absolutely. No. That's you're not at all. It's a very. I mean, Madagon made an important thing, and I don't agree with games hand holding whatsoever. I completely. Again, the questions I'm asking, they're very much made to try and get your honest opinion out there, and that's the most important thing. So thank you for being honest. And soapbox or not, that's what I want. That's what it is. So you just gave me exactly what I needed. And it is very important that people aren't handheld. Unfortunately, I think nowadays as well is a personal opinion, and I think this is the way other games have done it, and I think this is maybe whether or not this is other games that have caused this issue, or the fact that you can now jump in and you can experience things very, very quickly in that bite-sized kind of chunk part, is that there is a lot of impatience maybe out there in terms of, and I don't, it's more of a feeling of people than a feeling of a specific community or even MMO community, because I'm experiencing this a lot in the various other MMOs I'm playing now, and it's a very, very, it's a thing that comes up very often, is if I'm not satisfied like that, if I'm a new player into a new MMO, there is often the experience that they will drop it unless they have invested themselves into the community. As you said, Kash, it's really nowadays is like, it's even worse, and it's the happy medium between exploration and a pointer, like even just a road marker. And it's like, how handholdy is this? Because I fucking hate that. I hate guides for everything. It's why I didn't look at a guide for VMA. I wanted to experience that in its purest sense, how Finn or whoever contributed to that experience, because that's what they wanted you to do. They wanted you to go through it the first time and not look at shit. Like, if I'm telling you, the best experience you can have, and this is just, again, my personal view, if you like looking up guides because you want to be the best and you want to do it in a quick time, you want to rinse through it, cool. But that was so good. It was so important as part of my experience to work out those mechanics. Fuck it took me 2 weeks, 3 weeks to do it. Every so often, every couple of days, just bashing in there for an hour. But it was well worth it. It was well worth it. And it is worth it, again, to do what Kash says, to, put yourself out there, talk to someone, ask for a little bit of guidance. Even on stream, I'm definitely not the kind of person who gives a crap about what people think in terms of whether or not I'm a noob or anything else. If in chat, all right, I'll give you an example, and I will tell you this right now to almost like 75, 80 people. I didn't enchant my weapons until the last boss of VMA, and that's what happened. Okay, I didn't do that because I had yellow weapons, and I had not, and that was the last boss in VMA, and that is embarrassing as hell to admit. I didn't do it. Okay, I failed. All right, I failed.
You can you will certainly find yourself min-max.
Yes, I will definitely be doing that more in future. That's very true. But yeah, sorry. I mean, I don't know if you wanted to. I feel like I come to Jibbs on the last end of the bits.
No,
there.
no, you're
like,
fine. They nailed it. I mean, if you want your hand held, there's a certain orc in Glenumbra who's ready to hold it, and she'll take you right into Orsinium, and she'll let you know how long she's been looking for you. And man, you guys just go off on an adventure together. It's good stuff. No, but in all seriousness, no. You know, maybe it's the old. I think there has to be a balance, right? I mean, you've got a new generation of MMO players. You know, as far as we're concerned, we come from an era where I'm used to going. Remember Alakazam, the old school MMO website, going to there and checking things way back in the day.
Jesus.
I mean, like, I'm not opposed to doing that. If I need to understand something, I will say this, Jebro, what you did was awesome because you went through VMA. You didn't look up anything, and now you have one heck of a story to tell. Yeah, and that's the part about MMOs that make them so great.
Build. I will say I looked at a builds wise, but it was just damaged Templar, just to get a bit of a guide for a build. Yeah, like that was other than that.
Yeah, you've got such a cool story to tell, and those are the stories that carry on for years after you've played a game. You know, it's like Kash and I, we often go back and forth about Star Wars because we are Star Wars nerds to the max. So we're like, hey, man, remember this in Star Wars? I'm like, yeah. I mean, so now you've got these stories that you can carry on for years with people that, you know, you may never even have heard of ESO, depending on where we're at in our life at that point. So I think it goes hand in hand. I think maybe a little bit more of hand-holding may be in order for the newer player, particularly geared towards the newer generation who have never touched ESO. They've never touched MMO. They don't understand what Gen Chat is. You know what I mean? So maybe taking them under their wing a little bit more. But at the same time, you've got an older generation. You know, we don't particularly need our hand held as much. We're not opposed to going to guides or just these sites, you know, for MMO stuff. So I think you guys nailed it. But, you know, at the end of the day, Stug is always waiting for you, so you just you just make your decision.
I tell you what, you actually made a really good point about the younger, like about not even the younger, but the newer generation of MMO player, because I do wonder about what the hell they think an MMO is nowadays when they jump in. You know, like you've got this generation of kids, and I think. You know, I mean, there's definitely people out there who can say, you know, people, I mean, yourselves, if you have kids, you can probably say, you know, I got my kid into ESO when they were 5 or 6, or people, you know, World of Warcraft when they were 5 or 6. And, you know, I got my nephew into Guild Wars 2 when he was like 7, you know, or something like that, ridiculously. You know, it couldn't do much, but it was just running around. But it's like, you know, but though... necessarily, I think people getting into MMOs nowadays, if they've never touched one, their parents haven't introduced them, is a little bit more rare than back in like the day, right?
And you know what? If they feel like they need more help, I mean, ElderScrollsOnline.com, they've already done a great job putting together guides, tutorial guides, starter guides. Maybe making those more evident in game to the players, to the player base, may be beneficial because they've already done a lot of the legwork there. So maybe everything I just said, you know, just forget all that and just go to the tutorials that they've already put out because they're great. It helped me get started again after being gone for 4 years. So
no, what you said is very valid as well. To be fair, definitely do what he said. Definitely do what he said. I think is Kash itching to say something. I'm not sure.
He talks a lot. He's all right. You can move on.
I'm always itching to follow up. Particularly.
We have had a couple of issues with Kash's mic. I do apologize. I think
Turn your mic up. Turn your mic up.
It's only every so often. I've understood everything he said. I don't know if it's a right.
That's why I'm messing with the settings.
Yeah,
you turned it down too low. I can hardly hear you. It's like a whisper, like a creepy whisper, like the prophet in a cave.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Kyle likes it. It's fine.
Let's send our new players straight into the cave with the creepy old man, who sometimes sits on himself, if you've ever seen that bug, which is very...
Yeah, that's kind of creepy. I got some popsicles in my cave.
Wow, okay, this turned dark quick.
That's why the game's rated M for mature, is because of the intro.
There is a lot of double entendre and whatnot.
Because of the lusty Argonian man.
Yeah,
there you go. That too.
That's true. And the newer one as well, I guess.
Well, quick shout out to the new zone guide that's in the game. I mean, that is something everyone was so hyped about it, and I didn't care at all until I actually saw it. I was like, well, what's that matter for me? I already know this stuff. But I mean, I really like the animations they used for it too. The fact that it will zoom in, like it'll take you it'll take you out to a map and it'll actually zoom in on the location very specifically, very close to where quest giver is. That's beneficial because we got to remember some people that come to this game don't even know you can zoom out on your map yet. And that is a whole other level of UI sort of psychology and all that sort of stuff in one. Is like you get people that may not know that there's a map that functions in that way. People that see a zone and they're like, oh, I didn't know that I could go backwards but I mean, how much can you do with that, right? There's certain hand holding things that you can and can't do. And chat's kind of said there that, it gets a little bit overbearing at times if a game is pushing too much. Right. And for some people that complain about the Sigil quest line, even I was like, well, why is that go all around the world thing even in the game? Until my friend was like, well, that's there to teach people.
Oh my God.
Zones. And I went, oh, duh.
It was wonderful. I hold
it's literally a quest made. So if you're starting in Somerset, it's to show you that Somerset is not the end all be all. You actually have to go to other places and do things. And
there's the other side of it, where it's a massive pain in the ass if you ever want to do it again. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I remember the streams because I did the Sigil line on stream again. And trying to work out how to get to the zones and whatnot, and I think we went via boats and we went via the waypoint, the shrines that we had unlocked if we had unlocked them, because in a way it was helping them to understand it as well, and any new players at the time, and because it was at that point where Morrowind had taken up so much of my time, went to PvP Cyrodiil. I'd done Glenumbra, and up until that point, I was ready for Somerset because it was like April, and Somerset was June-ish, I think. And then it was like, I went to all these zones and I was like, dude, this is base game. Like, what? Like, this is so good. This zone looks epic. It looks it looks as good as Somerset. The mobs are as good. And it's completely different. Like, if someone jumps in there, and this is kind of almost something I should have added earlier when we were talking about the zones you start in, is it's important that wherever you start, if you're not given the option, that you're introduced into those places in some kind of way, that it's not just reliant upon, exploration is awesome and important, but if you can be put there just into a map for a quest, just for a second to just experience that place, because you might not end up there just because you can't access it and you've not been forced there sometimes, but just once, every so often, it's just nice. It's a nice break from that area. Especially because it can get quite bogged down, especially if like Kyle starts, he doesn't like the aesthetics of the area. It might have been like, Kyle, hi, there's this place over here you might like, and like he could have connected it, but he's obviously the kind of person he likes to explore, and he sounds very open to the experience of trying to get to know a game, which is very, very awesome. And to his credit, he did that, and thank God he did, because otherwise we might not have him here. At the end of the day, right? I mean, that's the kind of person you are, and that's the credit to you. We really are complimenting each other today, aren't we?
Yeah, this is just
massive.
This is a big old hug.
You guys were so good.
This is what this community's about.
This is so true.
Yeah,
it really is.
But
how often do we do this? How often do we get together? Like, I mean, this is the first time, so
I mean, I'm hoping to do this. I mean, I'm thinking about maybe doing this weekly, in all honesty, because it's getting to a point where there's so many bloody creators that I think we can all have so many good conversations. And
absolutely.
I'm a talker. I'm a people. Like therapy, I'm about talking to people, and Kyle obviously, but I think we all are. I mean, you guys talk to people. That's what you do. It's your podcast. It's what it's all about, and this is why it is a really exciting community to be part of. And anyway, I'm gonna, rather than digress, because otherwise I'm gonna keep you guys here all day, and I don't want to do that. But okay, so. Wintercar, did you guys all talk about what I just said, and what subject were we on?
Basically, I mean, we talked through leveling, and kind of. We talked about challenges. One maybe other thing to say is what sort of content you're faced with when you get out of those tutorials. That's the last thing on tutorials, and maybe that helps segue into leveling. Is one of the complaints I hear about Somerset is that those delves are rather dangerous and long, and they are actually complex. They're very nice in that they're very unique. Like, I like them as a player that knows what's going on. But yeah, you know, certain things for new players could be a little tricky like that. So I could see that as well from people's comments.
It's almost sometimes you could have like a mini LFG just for some of that, for that one delve that's in the smaller home map, but the I can't remember what it's called, the smaller map where the main big, Jesus Christ, I can't remember what it's called.
The mini map
in Somerset. No, in Somerset.
The city at the bottom.
You've got Somerset, and then you've got the other island where you
Artaeum.
Yeah. And you can go and do the delve there. Like, that's the really long one. I just came to mind, like, specifically.
I'm always lost in there.
Yeah, there is a quest in there which is very important, and it is quite like, and it's really, really cool the first time you go through it. But then when you throw your character through it the next couple of times, it's like, yeah, this is actually quite long, isn't it? I just wanted to get the sky shot. But for new players, again, you know, I think, and that's the kind of crossing over, isn't it? It's like, you know, this expansion is technically an expansion on top of the base game, on top of other DLCs for players who are vets. But then we're going to start players here as well. So sometimes it kind of feels like it's difficult to really get that balance to be like, you know, this is extra stuff for you vets, and it's technically an expansion, which is probably why they call it a chapter and not an expansion, which is very clever. But then as a new player, you come in, you're kind of whacked with all these mechanics and all these different things, and these maybe longer quest lines or delves, because that's kind of what you expect as you get like a new expansion and content. So it's, I think, difficult.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut in.
No.
I think at the end of the day, this game embodies the massively multiplayer part of MMORPG. It's massive. It's meant to be massive. You're going to have questions. You're going to need answers. You're going to need people to go to, and what better community to come and be a part of than the ESO community? You know, like they will take you by the hand and take you through, you know, whatever you need. And if you are not finding that guild, I can tell you that they're here, and they're sitting right here in this lobby. You've got Kyle's guild, Jebro's, and then you've got, you know, Loreseekers. All of us, or everyone in chat watching, you know, we want to help. That's what we're about, and we want to enjoy this game. And really, you can't ever, kind of going back to something we talked about earlier, you can't ever answer every question. You cannot ever have every tutorial for every little part. That's not what an MMO is about. The massive part about the MMO is the fact that you're going to have questions. And you know what? This world is huge. It's meant for you to take a long time through, to enjoy it. And I would just encourage people, you know, if you need to find a guild, if you need to find people, if you have answers, questions, there's answers out there for you. Absolutely.
There you go. Kyle just jumped in chat and people just posted the link. Exactly. New player question right there. The prawn. Want to start a new MMORPG but can't decide which one. WoW, Final Fantasy, and ESO. In all honesty, there is a lot of options there. Final Fantasy and ESO are newer. Final Fantasy does have new stuff coming up as well as ESO. ESO, and I will say this, is the massive selling point for me for Elder Scrolls Online, and something I boast about that every fucking MMORPG should be doing is like January of that year, laying out the content that they did was just the best. Like, I'm getting just now, like, I was just like, damn, that was so good. Who is asking questions about content that's coming up? Like, you know, out of anything, any question an MMO player has, and this is so important to me, and I'm sure to so many people, the most of the questions you have is, when is this coming? When is this story coming? When is this PvP map coming? We know everything. We know most of the stuff that's coming. It's just
Jibbs and I talk about that quite a bit, and
I mean, you were there. I mean, bloody hell.
We got to be there this time for
for
the release of or the announcement of Elsewhere. One of the biggest things about this MMO, when it really truly hit its stride, is that they were laying out all those things that they were doing every single year. So you're getting a certain amount of content releases, you are getting a quality of life release, and you know when it's coming, and they're just going to feed you that information all year long, and they're doing it off of all of the areas that gamers go to. Twitter, Twitch.
Yeah.
Those are the two biggest areas that gamers are going. But that has set a precedent, and I hope that other MMOs in the future, not that I'm going anywhere because I ain't, but I'm just hoping that other MMOs in the future take heed of the way that ESO has laid the foundation for their own success.
Yeah. I mean, any game that's got a live surface. I mean, you're right. You know, they ship. I mean, they're a good guide to go by, and I think anyone that has a live service, like, you know, maybe EA and Anthem as a good example, because goddamn well they could do with that. You know, the Division 2.
That's a podcast in itself right there, bro.
Oh, good lord, I've been there. I like I said, I do variety, and Anthem was part of that, and I loved that game. But you know, part of it was not knowing when all this stuff was going to be fixed. Is it going to be fixed? And I'm off it. And it's a fine example. But you know, I think as it's stretched from MMOs now into a live game service, which is where we're at, like looter shooters, things like that, like games that want you to keep playing for time to come. Anything, they need to have some kind of layout of, you know, this is our year, or this is at least our next couple of months. This is what's coming up, right? And that is important, and I think that's great for a new player, because, you know, how many viewers did they get? Almost, did they get 100k on that Twitch stream? If you don't, for context,
I think so.
At the ESO stream?
There was over 40k.
Yeah, 140k. Yeah.
Wasn't that the number that we had to pass?
It was 55k was one of the numbers, wasn't it?
Rich had to pass like 100k, wasn't it? Speaking of Rich, where's that tattoo at, bro?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Speak up, buddy.
Where's that Stuga tat at?
Someone clip this.
Is lurking in chat, and I'm pretty sure
he
knows the number. 100k for his tattoo. He just said in chat. So we had to pass 100,000 people watching that stream of the announcement of Elsewhere in order for him to get a tattoo. And he wasn't even aware at the time that before the stream even started, they were past 100,000.
Okay, all right. Can someone clip this? Rich, from the New Companions podcast, we want to know, where is your tattoo? Or when are you getting it done?
He's consulting in
No consulting. We want to know. We want a live Twitch stream of
My
it.
account is gone, just as a heads up. It was great being in the community, and I love you all very much. I'll see you next.
We want a live Twitch stream of this.
He says, Cal, please.
That's hilarious.
Amazing.
But seriously, that roadmap is something we use to actually sell the game a lot in the stream. Because when you're a new player, and we get that a lot, we'll get the question, is this game dead or is it dying? And at first glance, that could,
go on to Twitch. You can find out. It could
sound like a salty question, but when you're looking at a game, and MMOs, I always call them life replacers. Like, they are genuinely meant in their very core to take many hours of your life. This isn't just a 25-hour game. This is a multi-thousand-hour game. And so when you're looking to invest that time, that's a very good question. Is the community dying? Is it growing? What's happening? And so our two metrics we use to sell the game a lot, I'll say, keep in mind, this was in Steam's top 12 bestsellers of 2018. That is not the signal of a dying game if it's in the top 12 selling Steam games. That means all the other games you bought last year, they didn't make the cut. You could say that they're all dying before this.
Steam. That's like, I mean, all right, so let's gauge this now. How many of you play on the Steam launcher in this podcast and chat?
No.
Jibbs? Like,
no, I don't believe
none
that.
out of us four,
away from it.
None of us actually play via Steam. And you said it was top 12?
Top 12,
on Steam,
2018,
and that is massive because not even one of us has that client. So can you imagine the amount of people who play the game and it's not even on Steam? So that's a very good thing. Thank you, Carl, for saying that. If you are listening to this elsewhere and you've ever thought, and you've ever thought, I use that one all the time. That's for free, guys. And you're interested, good stuff. And I love you guys. This is such a fun podcast. And you ever want to play the game and you're wondering about that, Kyle just said it. Very good description. It is very much alive. And 2018 was good. I think 2019 is probably going to top that, in all honesty. Right. I think it's just going to be, it's only an upward curve, right?
Alaska in chat throws out a good question that buying doesn't mean playing. Now, that is true. That is not a one-to-one comparison. However, the money generated from the game sale means that our developers can continue creating products that like this that are even better. So what you don't want to see, if sales continue to drop, that means layoffs have to happen at studios. That means content's going to be more shallow and less interesting overall, usually. I mean, that's a typical trend for any sort of business. So with things like that, your point is correct, but money equals better most of the time, and these people are super dedicated to what they do. But back to this content, Matt, we also get to say, look, here's what's been happening for the last 2 years. We get 2 dungeons in Q1. We get an expansion that usually adds a class or a skill line or whatever in Q2. Q3 is more dungeons that add to that end game, so the game is staying fresh. In Q4 they land a story DLC on us, which means that we actually have new quests to complete, and the Loreseekers get more stuff to talk about in that sense.
And more content Carl's not going to play.
So you look at that and then you go and say, okay, this is a game that doesn't make me wait 2 years in a drought of content. Wow. And you have to like kind of make it up in your head of what to do. No, sometimes in ESO I'm like, oh crap, I got to go on to the next thing really quickly, if I want to keep up on that treadmill in a way. And that is great when it comes to continuing playing. So that's just my stance, and Alaska is right. That doesn't mean playing, but I think it gives a trend of growth.
When you've got a game that's top 12 in a year, though, I mean, the majority of people are playing that game. I mean, they've got to be, right? I mean, I know obviously on Steam there are big sales where the game is like $10, right? And people are like, I'll just buy it and see what it is, see what it's like. But when you go into the game and you play ESO, there's a real sense of this game actually has people playing it. There are people there in areas that you think, why is this person here? I'm just randomly in this little tiny nook or cranny, and there's this dude like randomly here. Why is he here?
And I was going to say that too, is that when you're in pretty much any area in ESO, I mean, being in several games that I've played in the past where you are it. There is nobody else out there. But everywhere you go in ESO, there are people. There are several places that I go where for a second the game will instance out because there's so many people in this one area. Yeah. And when I see that happen, it's like, I don't care if I go to a loading screen for 2 seconds because I get instanced. That means that there is a ton of freaking people playing this game. And it makes me happy. So I always laugh when I see somebody in some forum or in something. But you see somebody on Twitch or something who makes a comment, this game is dead. It's like, dude, I want to virtually split your lip. You have no freaking idea what you're talking about.
Virtually split your lip. I've never heard that before.
Like, come on, man. Awesome. It's like people are so wrong when they say that. The game is freaking thriving.
Yeah, it is a bit busy. If you look at, I mean, Twitch is actually a good. I think Twitch is actually, it's not always the best indicator of communities in games, obviously, but it is a good indicator of trending, I would say, like in terms of, up to date with their community and whatnot. Because if you look at MMOs, like generally, and of course I know there's drops which, exponentially, put those figures up. But when there isn't drops on, you've still got about 700 to about a K worth of viewers on, even like during the main part of the day, whenever I look at Twitch, and which is actually a lot more than most MMOs on Twitch. Other than, I mean, I don't count World of Warcraft in this, mainly because it's so massive. It's just a beast, which it's just a thing. It's out there. I mean, obviously, to be fair, we are getting a big, massive influx of players from World of Warcraft.
Absolutely, we are. Prominent streamers are coming over. YouTubers are coming over. It's just the greatest thing we have going for Elder Scrolls, and we talk about this often back behind the scenes of Loreseekers, is just time. Just need time, more time, and just let things keep happening organically the way they're happening. It's not a massive floodgate, which is good. You're like we talked about earlier. It's just organic growth, and it's going very well. And then we have really, really good content creators that are, you know, involved, and they're helping, and they have the spirit of where, I mean, yeah, everyone wants to put out the best content that they can, because, you know, whenever you do something, you want to do the best you can at it. But at the same time, it's more of a camaraderie, and you really feel that. And so, you know, it's, yes, I was kicking ass, but right now
the devs are invested. They're invested, and you can see it in everything they say and everything they do.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're getting out in front too. I mean, on social media, everywhere they are out in front of it, and it's very, very refreshing to see. Look at all the cons that they're going to, all the events that they're doing. It's not just because they have content coming out. They're doing this all year long.
Yeah.
And it's because of the constant stream of content that's coming out for the game. But from a very personal level, when you sit in front of these folks and you break bread with these folks, or you know, clink glasses with these folks, which we've been able to do, and just so incredibly blessed to have been able to do that. That is when you see what is behind the veil of these people. These folks are
good
really
people
into this.
Yeah.
They love this community. They love what they're doing. And when you have that kind of passion in your heart, and you can turn it, because you have the skill, when you can turn it into a game for a bunch of people to play, people like us see it, and then we start talking about it, and then other people start talking about it, and then people come to the game and play it and go, oh my God, they're not kidding. That is what's spreading with ESO.
Yep.
I think that's actually quite a good way to almost wrap things up. Almost.
I agree.
That's good. That was actually a really good final line. I kind of almost wish I didn't talk after that. That was really well done. You can tell you guys have done this before. Okay, so I don't want to hold these guys any longer. As per usual, we have run over. I didn't get to some things that actually were really, really fun things, which I'm going to bring up in the future. But you know, this is their time, and I don't want to take up the rest of their day. And we've had a really, really good podcast. I'm going to go around each one of you very, very, very quickly, like in less than 30 seconds, as an outro, as part of your outro, as you tell us about your content and what you do and where we can reach you. Tell me one thing that you would love to have in the game. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be space aliens with unicorns attached to their heads, an entire beast, like something that would improve the game as a new player. Let's keep it on topic very, very quickly. But also tell me where we can find you on Twitter, where we can find you on Twitch, if you're doing Twitch, if you're doing YouTube, and what you're about. Very, very briefly. Let's start with Kash.
More gifting. I want to be able to gift more things to my friends in game, although we're probably about halfway there with see more things available to us to be able to gift to our newer players as packages, just to welcome people in. So more things available for gifting. You can find me on Twitter at Loreseeker. I'll let Jibbs handle all the podcast stuff, but you can also find us on Instagram at Loreseekers.
Thanks. Nice. Okay, Jibbs, since he's passed it on to you, next.
Did you say me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you go next.
Is it Kyle?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. You can find me on Twitter at JibbsIRL, but I'll be honest with you, I put most of my time and content into the Loreseekers Twitter account, which is at Loreseekerscast on Twitter, Twitch page, twitch.tv/LoreseekersPodcast. And if there was anything that could be added to the game, it would be the next chapter. Like the dragons are kind of an anomaly, the way they're returning. I'd like to see that for the Dwemer.
Don't do it.
With a Tinkerer skill line, so you can build things, and it's awesome. Rich, please.
No. I want that.
That's all.
I want that. That's
how cool would it be to be able to construct your own clothing table that would pop up in front of you wherever you're at? Mobile crafting
I would
table?
love an engineer class, that kind of thing, man.
You got it. I would love to see that part of ESO showcased more. That's all I have to say.
I would love it. Absolutely. Kyle.
So you'll find me over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Kyle Dempster Studios. You guys see the name in chat there. We're always welcoming new players into the game. And we have the podcast, The Tenets. We're going to record one of those today and actually redo our very first episode to talk to people about the updated passives for the racials. So that's gonna be fun to redo episode 1. I don't know how that's gonna. My brain's not gonna work, but my main ask for the game would be more community content in terms of things guilds could do together. I just need the tools. So
A
that
guild
our community
quest.
can
A guild
out.
quest. These all
or leveling up guilds like the old elements they had.
Ooh,
like
yeah,
that.
man.
Like these guys could build that up and make it great. It's a good concept that never.
Maybe
stuck.
I need to get you guys back on for a guild podcast.
Please.
I think. Yeah. All right. We might
talk
do
about
that next.
For 10 hours.
We might do that next. Just guilds.
We're in.
Yeah, Kyle. Sorry. Anything else? Twitter. What's your Twitter?
Twitter. Kyle Dempster STU. They don't let me have the rest of it. So thanks, Twitter.
STU. Okay.
That's about it.
Make sure you please go and follow all these guys. They're all talk in chat, so you can click on their names and you can find out all the things about them as well. Carl's doing his cast today. When's the next Loreseekers podcast coming out? Or was it today?
It'll be next Friday. This upcoming Friday.
Friday. Okay, cool. And you can see all the information that's been popping up chat through the entire time. We've got time if you want to do !TNC. That's the new companions for this week who have been here joining us. I am Jebro, and I put forward to you this podcast every 2 weeks. This is our 4th show. We've had a lot of different awesome. Yeah, you guys tell me to sell myself. I know I should. I'm the worst. And every 2 weeks we bring on different people depending on the topic. You know, PvP. It could be PvE. It could be dungeons. It could be anything that we think might be useful to talk about at the time. New player experience was very, very apt, especially for this weekend, since ESO is free to play right now. The base game for anyone who would like to. That ends soon, but then obviously we are kicking straight into elsewhere in the rest of the year, as we've talked about. So much on the horizon. I'm at JebDan if you're listening to this on Twitter, on Spotify or iTunes or anywhere else. Come and join the Twitch stream at twitch.tv/JebroUnity on those Sundays for the podcast, or even if you just want to come and check out awesome communities. All of us have such great people involved. ESO, as generally as a game, has just epic people, so get yourself involved if you haven't already. Otherwise, that is pretty much the show. We're going to drop into just a little bit of an off-screen. Is there anything you guys want to end with or to say, just quickly mention first before we go, or are you good?
Dilly.
I would just like to say that I think running a standing operation appreciate us being to chat with
really
you.
wish I heard what you said.
With Kyle too, so thank you. And I love your friggin' haircut.
Thanks, Matt. I'm going to assume you just really complimented me because we didn't hear a single word you said.
He said that you got a great operation going here.
Excellent. Good stuff. Thank you.
And I would like to echo that and say thank you so much for having me on the show. Jibbs and Kash, it was great to actually talk to you guys directly instead of our evergreen content chatting at one another like that. So maybe we need to do more of this in the future, get more people in the community like this together. And I would definitely be back for a part 2, so please feel free.
Absolutely. I mean, this is part of the aim of it, to get these, because there are a lot of content creators, different, doing on different medias that just don't interact, and even on Twitch as well, with different viewerships, numbers and everything else. We just don't get that chance to talk to each other, and I think it's a really good opportunity to do that.
Right.
But otherwise, that's it, guys. These guys are gonna go and enjoy the rest of their sunny Sunday or crappy weather Sunday, whatever it is.
Cold.
Thank you for joining us on this Sunday afternoon or evening or morning, wherever you are. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching, peeps. Take it easy.